My entitled mother attempted to read quotes from my teenage journal during a town meeting, all in some kind of attempt to make herself look like a good mother, even though she made my childhood an absolute nightmare. But after I complained and got her removed from this event and from speaking, she's now furious with me, saying that I ruined her reputation. And now I'm incredibly frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my mom is 61 years old, and she has spent the last few years reinventing herself as a very public community person. She sits on different boards, she has a bunch of galas that she goes to, and she does those smiling photos with the giant checks and pretty much all that stuff. Meanwhile, I'm a 34-year-old female and I work in design, and I usually just keep a pretty separate life from her because she has a talent of turning anything personal into a story about herself. We're not at a situation where it's like we're no contact, but honestly, I just try to be careful. Well, last month, one of her friends asked whether I would donate a framed print to a local fundraiser for a women's resource center. Now, I said yes because it was for a good cause and because my mom swore that she was only helping with logistics, not making it a family thing in any way. A week later, she sent me a draft of the event program so I could check the spelling of my name. Tucked into the last page was a preview of her closing remarks, and my stomach dropped when I saw them. She had built the emotional center of her speech around raising a sensitive, difficult daughter and learning to love me through my storms. She quoted lines from journals I wrote as a teenager, including one entry about feeling watched in my own house, and another one about wishing I could grow up somewhere where no one already knew who I was. Oh, and by the way, those journals were not given to her. She found them years ago when I moved apartments and said later that she had kept them safe. And I genuinely thought that meant in a box and not in her back pocket for a future audience. Well, I called her right away and she acted baffled that I was upset. She said the speech was not about me, but about motherhood, resilience, and how parents survive being misunderstood. When I asked why my private writing was in it at all, she said those words were part of her life too because she lived through that period with me. Then she got offended and said that I should be honored that something so painful was being transformed into something useful and beautiful. And honestly, that phrase made me feel ill. I contacted the event chair myself, I withdrew my print, and I told them I did not consent to being referenced in any speech or program materials. After finding out about this, the chair was horrified and pulled my mom from speaking until they could sort this out. And now my mom is furious, saying that I humiliated her, damaged her standing in the community, and took money away from women who needed the fundraiser because I chose to be petty about what she calls old notebooks. My aunt says I should have handled it privately after the event instead of blowing it up days before. But I think if I had stayed quiet, I would have been sitting in a ballroom while my mother read my teenage pain into a microphone and called it generosity. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation for doing what I did? Because right now I'm still very pissed off. Okay, honestly, first off, no, you're not the jerk. And secondly, I would make sure I've got everything away from her and probably go very low contact after that. I can only speak for myself, but seriously, if my parents tried that with me, I would be furious. I would kick my mom's door in and be like, you're gonna give me all of my journals back now because those are not your property and you're not gonna keep them. So I really think you did the right thing. This is absolutely unacceptable and very unprofessional, especially her trying to be like, I lived that with you. But it's like, no, dude, you're the reason why she wrote those journals in the first place. Like, what in the world is going on? She is literally the cause of all these problems, and she's trying to sit there and be like, wow, I can't believe this. You're really gonna deny me from speaking my truth or some crap like that? Like, what's going on right now? That's so weird. So yeah, you had every right to speak up because the way your mom was acting was completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My property is constantly used as a turnaround point for people who lose their way, and it's gotten to a point where I'm seriously sick of it and I don't know how to make people stop. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I live on a shared pipe stem driveway, and my 3 neighbors have generous private driveways off of it. The shared driveway is paved and their individual driveways are concrete, and for my driveway, they just have the asphalt from the shared right all the way up to my house. The developer also provided an apron for me to turn around on. Meanwhile, the other homes accomplished this merely by backing out of their private driveways onto the shared portion. But unfortunately, people are incredibly stupid and lazy, and this leads to a lot of entitlement. The number of people who cannot manage or just refuse to perform a multi-point turn is insane. The number who also moronically see pavement in front of them and just mindlessly drive until it runs out at my garage is also insane. Like, you very obviously crossed a property line, idiot. The two are an almost complete overlapping circle, which then means they angrily drive across my lawn, my walkway, and my sprinkler system, and their pathetic attempts attempts to turn around. In fact, the more empty my driveway is, the worse they are at their attempts. Never mind the 3 spacious 4 to 6 car driveways they pass on their idiot way to mine. Delivery drivers, people looking around, visitors to the neighborhood, the neighbors themselves. I'm exhausted by this, so I started parking at the end of my driveway, and now they can't access my driveway nor my apron. Oh well, too bad. So anyways, I take my dog out at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and at this time, it's obviously dark. And at this time, I always have my phone and my pepper spray on me. I mean, a stranger from the neighborhood tried to break in a year and a half ago. So today I was concerned when a car is slowly approaching me with their headlights blinding me. It pulls up right onto the bumper of my car and just sits there. After several minutes, I pull out my phone and I start recording, and I tell them to get away or I'm calling the police, as this is creepy behavior and I really feel threatened. The dude then angles his car more directly at me and rolls up closer. I then say to him, what in the world is going on? But he yells back that he's waiting for somebody. But it's like, dude, I don't care. You're at my house. I start searching for the non-emergency number, and a woman comes out from 2 houses up and tells them something. They then back down to that house and voila, they do a multi-point turn in the space in that driveway to turn around and wait. Yeah, that's right. Stop creeping out a woman in their own driveway at 0:30. I really believe they wanted to shove their car past mine, putting my car at risk of them scraping it, where they would then drive up onto the apron to turn around, but because I was right there, it was obviously not an okay thing to do. So they were waiting for me to go back inside, and since I wouldn't, they were just sitting there annoyed like I was hogging 2 parking spots up front at Costco on a Saturday morning. I'm honestly so tired of these people, and I simply don't know what to do. Okay, someone said it in the comment section, but dude, I would either put up a fence or get some kind of big decorative rock, or maybe even a boulder if you have access to it, because that sounds really annoying. And I'm talking the kind of boulders where it's yeah, if you hit this, you're gonna have problems. Because you're right, that sounds very annoying, and I would hate to deal with that on a daily basis. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up a desk that I reserved at work after a new general manager keeps stealing my spot that I'm booking in advance? Because right now I'm very confused and I'm just not sure what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for starters, my workplace uses a hot desking system where everyone has to book desks way in advance. Bookings open a few weeks ahead of time and no desks are officially assigned to anybody. I only go into the office maybe 1 or 2 times a week. My team day is usually Friday and it's fairly quiet. So on those days, my team, which is about 15 people maybe, tends to book desks in the same area just to sit together. Well, about 6 months ago, a new general manager who's not from my division started sitting in that area and seems to have become very attached to a particular desk. A few weeks ago, I unintentionally booked that desk because it was next to my colleagues and there were visitors in the office, leaving limited seating options. Well, the day before, he messaged me asking me to release the desk. I politely asked for a reason and whether I could still book in that area, because I wasn't sure if the visitors were exclusively using that area, but he never responded, so I just kept booking it. Well, the next day I arrived and I found him sitting in the desk that I had booked. I asked him about it, but he said he messaged me yesterday. I then asked him why he didn't respond, but he said that he was busy. I ended up finding another desk on the other side of the floor, but I was still annoyed he didn't apologize or give a proper explanation. I then saw that same desk was available in a few weeks' time, so I booked it. Well, fast forward to this week, and this Friday I booked that desk. But today I received a message from his executive assistant asking me to kindly release all future bookings and refrain from booking the desk he usually likes to take. Her justification, by the way, was that as part of the leadership team, he needs a desk with a screen that faces away from the rest of the office. But the thing is, it's a quiet day, so there are multiple desks on the other side of the floor that would meet that requirement. Also, the desks aren't officially assigned, and again, this is where my team is sitting. So am I actually the jerk if I don't release the desk this time and just keep the booking? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, but I really don't think you're gonna win this fight because holy crap. It seems like these rules are meant for you and not really for any of the management. Because that's the first thing I would be asking. I would be like, hey, is hot desking not a thing anymore, or do I still need to book it? Because this guy keeps taking my booking and it's super annoying. Or better yet, show up on time and take the desk. I don't know. I just don't think it's worth dying on this hill and risking your job. And sure, they can't fire you for something like that, but people have been fired for dumber reasons. And in my opinion, it just would not be worth the hassle of taking this specific desk and instead just going anywhere else in the office. Seriously, if this is that big of an issue, then either go to human resources or pick a different spot, because this new manager is acting like a weirdo and it just doesn't seem that important to deal with. Today, a customer walked up past 5 people in line and was genuinely shocked that anybody was actually in line, which is really baffling and has left me completely confused. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I still think about it because of how sincere he seemed to be about the whole thing. Now, it was a pretty normal Saturday afternoon. We had a decent line going to my register, maybe about like 5 or 6 people, and it was honestly nothing crazy, but it was enough that it was a very clear line. People were standing single file, and there was maybe like 2 feet between each of them, and it was about as obvious as a queue as you can have without putting up velvet ropes. Well, this guy walks in, looks around the store for a second, then just walks directly to my register. Not aggressively and not rudely, just very calmly and with complete confidence, as if he was walking to an empty counter. He then sets his one item down and looks at me ready to go. The woman at the front of the line goes, "Excuse me, there's a line." And she says this very politely, not even annoyed really, but just informing him of what's going on. He then looks at her and then behind her at the other 4 people. Then he looks back at me with this expression like he's genuinely processing new information. He then actually says to me, "Oh, I thought they were just like standing there." And it's like, just standing there? Yeah, okay, 5 adults in a single file line at a register in a store, just hanging out apparently randomly. They just chose this spot for no reason, just to stand there. This guy was super apologetic and went to the back of the line without any kind of fuss, which was genuinely nice, I will say that. But I just couldn't stop thinking about what he thought was happening. Like, what did he think we were all doing? Like, what was his theory? Because it still leaves me scratching my head and I just don't know what to think about it. Okay, maybe this is a hot take, but I just want to say this. These types of customers, in my opinion, you know, the ones who are just completely clueless, they have no idea what's going on, these are the most annoying people to deal with. I totally understand this guy was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry about that," and he walked to the back of the line and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But when you deal with that every single day and you have people who just don't understand that, yeah, you gotta stand at the back of the line, especially in like a grocery store or some kind of store in general, like that will seriously make my skin crawl so fast it's not even funny. And yeah, these kind of scenarios really do happen more than you think because people are just completely clueless and they never know what's going on. A regular client's entitled husband got a massage from me, but really tried to force me into giving him a promotion that he did not sign up for, as he really expected me to give him a significant discount at the end of his massage, despite the fact that we agreed on the full price. Here's how it all went down. Okay, honestly, the audacity of some people is absolutely beyond me. For a bit of context, this morning I sent out a chain text message to all of my clients, both recurrent and new, for a St. Patrick's Day special I was running for this week. I was offering 30-minute, 1-hour full-body massages to 5 lucky people. Essentially, it was a first-come, first-served situation, and as you can probably imagine at that price, all the spots were taken in a matter of an hour after sending out the text messages. Well, today I was giving a massage to a new client of mine, and this person was the husband of one of my regular clients whom I've served for years now. Now, we discussed prices and everything before the massage, and he agreed to the price mentioned, which was the full price, but after the massage, when we were going to handle the payment, he said, "Wait, my wife said you were going to give her the $30 massage. Why is mine $100? And when I heard this, at first I was confused. Then I said, "Oh yeah, that was a promotion I'm running." She was one of the 5 clients who locked one of those spots, but they're all completely full now. And you know what? I guess because he knew I was massaging his wife this week, also at that price, he felt he also, as her husband, deserved the same price. But I told him, "I'm sorry, but that's just not how it works. We agreed to my normal pricing beforehand." When I said this, he threw a fit, told me he would never book with me again, and that it was unprofessional of me not to just hook him up. So yeah, I had to deal with that today, and I definitely hope I don't have to deal with it again in the future. Okay, this kind of crap is so annoying because it's like, dude, if you wanted the promotion, you should have said something ahead of time, not wait to the end of the massage to be like, "Wait, I thought it was only $30. Because you literally said at the beginning of it, "Yeah, I'll pay for full price." And at that point, it's like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're not going to go back on it and be like, "No, give me a $70 discount." So yeah, this is so weird. Honestly, I would not want someone like that as a client, and it's just incredibly disappointing that someone would really act that way, because the original poster is not being unprofessional. If anything, they're being very professional by upholding their standards and not allowing someone to push them around. Am I the jerk for making my neighbor run after his dog after he lets it off his leash one too many times? Because after dealing with this so many times, I finally decided to get some revenge. And honestly, I'm not sure if I took things just a bit too far. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I have a small to medium-sized dog named Ozzy, and we live in an apartment complex that's pretty decent in size. It's got walking paths throughout the place, and it's honestly great for dogs. One important fact is that for everyone, you still have to keep your dog on a leash in the common areas. And yes, there are even like dog parks parks and other areas close by where you can let them off the leash, but this story didn't happen in one of those areas. In my complex, I have a neighbor who has, I believe, a Burmese mountain dog, which is like a giant dog. And even though the dog is very friendly, there have been 2 incidents in the past in which the owner let his dog off the leash in the common areas, and it full-on charged up to me and my dog. I had to pick Ozzy up because he was freaked out at the giant dog running up to us, and the owner had zero control over the dog. Once he got excited, he stopped listening and just kept trying to jump on us until the owner finally grabbed him and put his leash on. After this happened the first time, I was irritated for sure, but I get that accidents happen, so I was just keeping calm with the situation. The second time it happened was a couple months after, but I was honestly pretty pissed off because Ozzy already gets anxious as it is. So it was just very annoying for it to happen twice with the same owner and the same dog. I reminded the owner to keep his dog on a leash, but he really didn't seem to care and just grabbed his dog and walked off. So fast forward to today, and I'm taking Ozzy on his nighttime walk, and lo and behold, his stupid dog ran up to us for a third time. I saw him coming towards us and I turned to go the other way, but it was too late. I mean, the dog caught up to us in no time, and I had to snatch up Ozzy once again. I saw the owner walking up to us, calling at his dog to no avail, when I decided to finally teach him a lesson. I decided to turn and run the other direction, knowing that his dog would run with me, and I ran past a couple of buildings, made a quick turn, and then went another 50 feet or so before stopping and waiting for the owner. Now, the owner is a bigger guy, so it took him a second, but he came around the corner really out of breath, calling for his dog, and I just kept telling him that if he can't control his dog, it shouldn't be off a leash, to which he then used profanity, which I gladly returned right back at him, and then I just kept running. I ran past a few more buildings, letting his dog chase after me, honestly until my shorts started falling off. So I finally stopped and let the owner catch back up, and I just eventually pushed the dog away back to him. Now, let me tell you something, this guy was clearly mad, and honestly, if he wasn't out of breath, he probably would have had more to say to me, but he just got his dog and left. So personally, I don't think I'm the jerk here, but my fiance suggested that I post this here to see what other people think. I really just hope that he learns his lesson and doesn't let it happen again, because I'm gonna keep my shorts tied from here on out because I really don't want to deal with this ever again. Okay, in my opinion, I think this is really funny, and this is a fantastic way to teach this guy a lesson, because holy crap, dude, you've got to control your dog. You can't just let it chase after people at the apartment complex and think that's okay, because it's not. It's really intrusive and is really rude, especially a dog that big. Like, dude, you cannot have that thing running all over the place doing whatever it wants. So no, you're not the jerk. This guy's an idiot, and honestly, I think he learned a valuable lesson today. Today, I found out my friend's mom is reading his private messages, but after I caught her in the act and called her out on it, she literally lost it on me, putting me and my friend in a weird position because right now I don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, so this happened a few months ago, but I still think about it constantly because the whole thing got really weird way too fast. So I was at my friend's house one weekend, just hanging out in his room and playing games, and we were half talking about random stuff the entire time. We've been pretty close since high school, so I've been over there a lot, and I know his mom pretty well. She's one of those parents who acts overly nice in front of other people, but in a very controlling way. Like she wants credit for being relaxed while making sure every single thing is still on her terms. Usually, I just stay out of it because it's not my family, and I don't want to start drama in someone else's house. At some point, my friend left the room to shower and forgot his phone on the desk. His mom came in a minute later to ask something, saw the phone light up, and just picked it up. And this was not in a way where she was like, oh, hand this to me, or anything like that. She looked at the screen, unlocked it with his passcode, and started scrolling. When she did this, I kind of froze because I honestly thought maybe there was some like emergency or she was checking if it was like a relative or something like that. But no, she started reading his messages like it was the most normal thing in the world. I then said, probably a little too bluntly, that's kind of messed up. When I said that, she looked at me like I had insulted her personally and said that she was his mother, so she had every right to know what he was doing and who he was talking to. I then said, okay, I get being concerned about your kid, but reading private conversations when there's no actual issue is a lot. Well, she immediately got defensive and started going on about how children have no privacy when they live under their parents' roof, and how kids these days think basic parenting is oppression. Now, what really made it awkward was that she had clearly read messages between me and him too, because she brought up one joke I had sent him earlier in the week and told me that I was a bad influence. It wasn't anything crazy, by the way, just us making fun of a teacher we used to have. But I said that was exactly why she shouldn't be digging through his phone, because now she's reading other people's private conversations congratulations too. Well, she then snapped at me and actually asked me who I thought I was and how I had no right to tell her how to parent her own son in her own house. Now, right about then, my friend came back in and could instantly tell that something was off. His mom then told him that I was being disrespectful and lecturing her, but I told him that she was literally going through his messages while he was in the shower. But when I said that, he looked more embarrassed than surprised, which honestly made it worse because it meant this probably wasn't even unusual. She then started talking over both of us, saying, "Oh, I sacrifice everything for him and this is the thanks I get." Then she said if I had such a problem with how she ran her house, then maybe I shouldn't come over anymore. I said to her, okay, fine, and then I left maybe like 10 minutes later because the mood was absolutely dead anyways. My friend texted me later from his laptop saying that she was furious and had taken his phone for the rest of the weekend. Now, a couple of people that I told this to said that I really should have just kept my mouth shut because it really wasn't my place, but I still think that what she was doing was creepy and weird. Maybe I was too direct in how I said it, but I don't think I was wrong for saying something. But at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think you're definitely in the right for saying something, but I think saying it at that moment was really not a good idea. Like, if I saw that, I would definitely try to bring it up with my friend first and be like, hey, what was that about? And then describe to them what's going on and be like, yeah, she's like reading through your messages. And if he confirms it and tries to like pass it off like, oh yeah, she does that all the time, then that would probably be the last time I ever send them a message ever again, because that is a little bit too strange for me. If I'm sending someone a private message, then guess what? I want it to stay private. I don't want this to be some big like public thing. I want this to stay between the two of us and that's it. So the fact that she's reading through all of his messages and acting like, oh yeah, this is normal, there's nothing wrong with this, I'm just being a good mother. Like, no, you're not being a good mother. You're invading your son's privacy. And that's incredibly awkward. I just don't think that's okay at all. But I completely understand that this would be the reaction that this lady would have towards you, because chances are she never gets challenged like this ever. She probably rules that house with an iron fist. I guarantee you she's probably crazy behind the scenes. So yeah, I think the timing was a bit weird and you probably should have like saved what you had to say to your friend instead of to his mom, because honestly, with someone like that, I don't think you could pretty much ever win that kind of confrontation. My boyfriend of 7 years cheated on me, despite the fact that we recently celebrated our anniversary by going to Italy literally a month ago. But now, after finding out everything that's going on, I've decided to put my foot down and leave this man completely, as I've gone through some extensive steps to escape this weirdo and move on with my life. Here's how I did it. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I just found out that my 29-year-old boyfriend of 7 years cheated on me. My boyfriend went to his home state to see his family for the weekend, and he's been going quite often this year, about once a month, saying it's because his grandparents are old and they miss him. And seriously, I thought nothing of it until this morning. I got a screenshot from a mutual friend of ours of my boyfriend's location on Snapchat. He was at his parents' house, but a girl's Bitmoji was there as well. And this wasn't his sister or mom, and his parents, who weirdly also have Snapchat, were not home either. He didn't tell me he was going to be with anyone else today, and I tried calling him, but he just did not pick up. In fact, I looked on Snapchat and his location was turned off. The mutual friend says my boyfriend has told everyone at home that we broke up about 4 months ago. He said my boyfriend was making him stay quiet about it because he was trying to find the right time to tell me. As far as his parents know, he's moving home once our lease is up. Now, the reason our mutual friend told me was because he walked in on our boyfriend and the girl hooking up with each other this morning. I texted an old friend who lives in my hometown, and she immediately asked why my boyfriend was on Tinder. We caught up and she sent proof of his photos being on Tinder and his bio, and it really hurt to see that the photos he was using were ones that I took of him. He had even covered my face in a photo that we took together and said, "This could be you." Now, I had no idea his family thought we were broken up and that he was looking for other people to date. We even went to Italy a month ago to celebrate our 7-year anniversary. I'm honestly so confused and I just don't know what to do. I look around and everything in our apartment seems like a lie. My soon-to-be ex-boyfriend texted me just now and he's on his flight back home. He'll be back in about 5 hours, and obviously he can find his own way to the apartment from the airport. I'm shocked and numb, but my best friend is with me and they're helping me pack up all my clothing. I'm leaving and I'm not leaving a trace of myself behind. Our dog is also coming with me, and for now I'll be staying at my best friend's place. My soon-to-be ex and I already have separate bank accounts, and our joint bank account does not have much in it right now. I make more than he does, so he can keep it as far as I'm concerned. I also can't go to the leasing office because it's closed on Sundays, but I sent an email asking for early termination on the lease. We are registered as domestic partners, so I've completed the termination form, and I will drive up to the LA County office tomorrow. tomorrow. Also, he's on my health insurance, but I've sent the email to Human Resources to kick him off as soon as possible. We have several large photo albums together, and I'm not sure what to do with those now. Keeping them would be too difficult, but I don't want him to have the satisfaction of having our photos. I mean, it's clear that he uses our memories in a horrible way. So seriously, is there anything that I'm missing here? I can't seem to think of anything at all, and my thoughts are just so jumbled. Nothing makes sense, but I know for a fact I can't stay. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update of all the things they had to do just to get out of there. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for the solid advice and basically walking me through this. I'm also compiling everything I did in the first section, so if others need a way to cut contact with a person, they can reference this and know what to do. And trust me, there was a lot of things I needed to do. To start things out, I logged myself out of our Apple TV and Xbox. I also canceled the Wi-Fi that I paid for and returned the modem to the carrier. On top of that, I took my payment information for utilities off of our account. I also packed up all of my sauces, my spices, and my cooking oils, and I took note to only leave dried rosemary behind. And the reason I did that is because I know he hates that crap. I then printed out and framed the screenshot of his Tinder profile, and I left it right on the kitchen table. I even closed a piece of dog poop into the frame as well. So with that in mind, I'll keep the photo albums and he can have this. I then took a video of the entire apartment after packing up all my things. I left my keys in the mailbox to the leasing office and emailed the leasing office of my departure with the videos of what the apartment looked like prior to locking up. I then basically updated my address for pretty much everything, from the postal service to the vet, as well as the hospital, school, my work, and my dog's chip. I then talked to Human Resources, and I'm in the process of getting him off of my health insurance, just like I talked about earlier in my other part. I'm also changing the benefactor of my life insurance over to my parents, as well as changing my emergency contact. Now, I'm also going to the bank to take myself off the joint bank account. Fortunately, I'm not worried about my credit, as all of our finances have stayed separate, but I'm grateful to those who told me to freeze my credit. I then logged out of all devices for all streaming services, as well as my work, personal, and school email. Once I did all that, I blocked him on all social media, as well as any chat rooms and his phone number, while also making an appointment with a doctor just to make sure I don't have any diseases, if you know what I mean. And with all that said and done, I'm on my way to an appointment with a county office just to terminate our domestic partnership. So as you can imagine, it's been an incredibly busy 18 hours, but I've had a lot of help from my friends, and I haven't really been able to sleep either. Now, in terms of what happened since he arrived, here's basically what went down. I already blocked him before he landed, and I received many text messages and calls from his parents and sister that I just did not see. Then, when I noticed his sister calling, I picked up the phone. At first, the call was hostile. She accused me of being some crazy ex-girlfriend that could not let her brother go, which is funny since I just packed up and left the house. She brought up that it had been 4 months and that I needed to move on, but I told her that the ex never approached me about breaking up, and that 1 month ago, we celebrated our 7th anniversary and started to plan our wedding. Like I had no indication he even wanted to break up. We then reset a bit and she allowed me to tell her side of the story. I told her he was somewhat distant this year, but he had blamed it on their grandparents being old and wanting to spend more time with them before they die. But it turns out their grandparents have been dead for 2 years. Now, I never met them because my ex claimed that they were super awful towards certain types of Asians, all because his grandfather was in the Vietnam War. And yes, for reference, I am Southeast Asian. But it turns out you can't be that way if you're dead. We ended the call on a positive note, with his sister saying that that is a lot to take in. She then said that she felt bad as the girl he was cheating on me with was one of her friends. She had introduced them to each other sometime last year when my ex was apparently unhappy with our relationship. They hit it off and he was supposed to break it off with me, but I guess he just never had the guts to do so. She was also confused as to why he was on Tinder, as he was in a relationship with her friend. And yes, I sent her all the Tinder receipts after hanging up. Later in the night, I received an email from my ex. To sum it up, yes, he asked me to come to the apartment to talk it out, and no, he did not apologize for anything. And yeah, he even ended the email by saying, "I love you." As far as I know, he doesn't know where I am, and I also don't believe he knows where my friend lives, as she just moved and he hasn't really been here yet. He also doesn't seem like that type of person, but I guess I didn't really know him after all. We will keep the locks ready and bats near the door if we really need it. But I will say it's been so helpful just writing out everything that's happened so far. But all of your advice, support, and guidance in this situation has made me feel empowered enough to leave. At times, I just wanted to stop packing and hope that when he came back home, everything would go back to normal and the text would just be a distant memory. But your words of encouragement have really helped me follow through and leave, because at the end of the day, nothing good would have come if I decided to stay. Man, good for the original poster for getting out of there. Holy crap, I can't imagine going through something like this. Like, imagine that. You just went to Italy of all places for your 7-year anniversary. Meanwhile, this guy's already cheating on you once and is now possibly possibly cheating on his new girlfriend by being on Tinder. Like, your boyfriend's a piece of crap, dude. And he set it up in a way where it's like, oh yeah, no one from his family's ever gonna like contact you because he's convinced them that, yeah, you guys broke up 4 months ago and you're just obsessed with him. So truly, I'm so glad you got out of there. I'm glad you did everything that you needed. And just like the original poster said, that's a really good list of things you need to change. But hopefully everything works out and you have a better life because your boyfriend is a piece of garbage and you could do much better than that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom trying to get to the airport demands that I give up my disabled seat so that her family could all sit together. But thankfully, karma was on my side as I watched this entitled mom and her family miss the part of the train that they had to switch over on, which in effect made them miss their flight altogether. And I couldn't be more satisfied because this lady absolutely deserved it. Here's what happened. Okay, so something interesting happened to me today that I absolutely wanted to share. So the local train is set up in a certain way where it goes as a full train for 90% of the line, then it splits into 2 trains in the end, one going to the suburbs and one going to the airport. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so far so good. Because today, as usual, I was going on the part that goes to the suburbs. Currently, there is a holiday season here, so there are lots of people with suitcases around that want to go to the airport. And almost every single day, I see people who enter the rear part of the train towards the suburbs by mistake. Now, I usually help those people out and tell them when they can best change to get into the front part of the train to the airport. You can easily spot them with a big suitcase looking a bit out of place. But today was very different. I have a bit of a limp on my right leg, so I'm pretty slow, and usually I sit in the disabled seat, which makes things easier for me to get in and out of the train. And it's right about here that the entitled family of this story steps in. A big family with all these suitcases entered the train, namely a mom, a dad, 2 kids, and grandma, and they started arguing about if the train goes to the airport or not, with mom being very sure it goes to the airport, and that they all, on the other hand, are just wrong. They then started looking for seats, and I could see that they're coming towards me, and at this point, I'm pretty much sitting alone. Well, this entitled mom comes up to me and is now telling me that I should get up and make room for them, telling me that I was sitting in a family part and that I should not be sitting there. To be honest, I would have made room for them anyways, but I only smiled at them and got up without another word. But this entitled mom was clearly not done yet, telling me off for how rude I am and that I should look out for people who actually need those spots. Dad eventually pulled her to the side and just pointed out my limp and that I'm probably disabled, but she only looked at me like sour grapes, just giving off this very much insincere apology. I was staying quiet towards them, moving a couple seats over, and just watching somewhat with malicious delight as they realized they were in the wrong part of the train and missed the last station to switch over, which for me, when I consider how this lady acted, in my opinion is the kind of karma that she absolutely deserves. Dude, I love this because holy crap, it is so rare that you ever get to see karma work its magic. And the best part about it is that the original poster is clearly a local. They know exactly where to go and they help people out all the time. So this is just a good lesson for pretty much anybody. If you're just nice and treat people with kindness, you very well might just get the help that you need instead of getting nothing and then you end up going to the wrong place, which in my opinion is super hilarious and these people absolutely deserved it. Did I overreact after I walked out on my hairdresser, all because she didn't tell me 2 weeks ago that she couldn't style my hair the way that I wanted it? Because honestly, this has all been very upsetting and I just don't know if I made the wrong choice. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm 20 years old and I went to get my hair done today. I had messaged the woman who does my hair 2 weeks ago to see if she had any openings. I sent her a picture of what I wanted and she told me to send her a picture of the way my hair currently looks. I sent her a picture of that as well and she messaged me back saying that she had put me in for Saturday. Now I want to clarify that she is the only person who has ever dyed my hair. The first time I dyed my hair about 8 months ago was with her, and I was very happy with what she did, and no one else has touched my hair but her ever since then. Now for context, the last couple of times I've done my hair, I got this little brown kind of coppery tone to my hair. This time I wanted to keep that coppery tone, but add some pink streaks because I wanted to do something fun. I'm not a hairdresser, I mean I don't know what is possible and what's not possible, and I expected to be told if something can or cannot be done. Well, today I walk into my appointment, and from the minute I walk in, she doesn't even remember scheduling my appointment, but then all of a sudden she does, and she asked me to wait while she gets her stuff ready. Then she asked me if I'm just getting a touch-up of what I've already done, but I said no. I sent you a picture of what I wanted. She then asked me to show it to her, and I do so, and she takes one look at the picture and says, "Oh yeah, I can't do that." Now I'm really surprised by this, because she had not said anything in the messages that I sent her, or even told me that it wasn't possible. So I tell her that I sent her a picture and a video of my hair, as well as the picture of what I wanted, and she didn't say anything about not being able to do it. Well, it was at this point she starts acting as if she had never even seen a picture of my hair before, so I decide to pull up my messages and I show her. She then says to me, "Well, it must have just slipped my mind to tell you," and then tells me to go look for something else that I want. At this point, I'm not even in the chair yet and I'm just standing there. I then go over to the waiting area and I'm on Pinterest trying to find something, but I'm also really upset. I was set on getting this color today. I didn't even look at anything else, like I have no clue what I want. I don't want to pick something in a rush and then not like it. I also feel that she, as a hairdresser, could have just made a suggestion to me about what I can do, because I didn't want to pick something that also wasn't possible. I look for a bit, but I simply can't decide. So I go up to her and I say that I'll just come back another day because I do not know what I want. She is taken aback, but she says to me, "Yeah, okay, we just can't do that. You need to pick another one." So I tell her I completely understand, and I'm not upset about not being able to do it, but I am upset because she asked for pictures of my hair and the hair that I wanted and scheduled my appointment, and then told me that I could not do it. I then told her that it would have been nice to have been told that she couldn't even do that over text messaging, because now I feel disappointed and rushed to pick something else. She then keeps talking about how she can't get my hair pink and that she can't give me what I want and just tells me to pick something else. I then tell her I get it and I have no problem with that. My real problem is the fact that she didn't tell me 2 weeks ago. She then says to me, "Well, what do you want me to do? I can still do your hair, but you're leaving." Now, it's important to know that I'm very sensitive and I was close to tears, so I just said thank you for your time and I walked out. But now, with it all being said and done, I'm wondering if I overreacted. I am very sensitive, so it was a huge deal to me. But should I have just sucked it up and picked something new like she said? I've also had nothing but good experiences before this, and I had no issue with not getting pink in my hair. I just hated feeling rushed and not being told beforehand. So am I overreacting? Because right now I'm very frustrated. Oh man, there's no way I would have stuck with that appointment. She sounded incredibly unprofessional and very rude too, by the way. It almost seems like she just wanted you on the schedule to fill up her appointments instead of providing a service that you clearly really wanted. Like, that's some terrible customer service, and I just don't think I would ever stick around. So no, you didn't overreact because your hairdresser sounds awful, and I think you would be much better off finding someone way better than this. My mom stormed off during my work event and left me and my kids stranded with no ride back, putting me in a situation where I was very uncomfortable, and even now after the fact, I'm still very upset about this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm gonna do my very best to share this objectively, but I am upset, so I just don't know if that's possible. I'm a 35-year-old female, and recently I bought a house with a granny flat to move my parents in when they retired. It's been about 6 months since they moved in full-time, and there have been growing pains, but mostly it's been going well. I have a job in childhood literacy and I do public story times every other Saturday. Typically, what happens is that my dad will come help me set up and then go back to my mom and my children and bring them over for story time. And for reference, I have 3 kids ages 6, 4, and 2. My children are neurodivergent and get easily overstimulated, so they typically stay about 30 minutes and then my parents take the children elsewhere while I finish up the day activities. And my dad comes back to help me pack up and bring me home. My mom helps me take photos during the event so I can advertise the free activities on social media. Now, today's story time was kind of important to me because there was collaboration potential with the author, but I did not communicate this since we weren't doing anything different than we typically do, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. But I did ask my dad to get there a little bit early just so we could have time to get the kids a little more settled before I started the activities. Now, my mom is a late person. She's late for literally everything. We tease her about it because no matter how much time she has to get ready, she will still wait until the last minute. We also share locations because it's easier than having to check in all the time. So apparently my mom was running late and her and my dad got into some sort of argument about it, the details of which are unknown to me. When it was about 10 minutes before I was supposed to start, I checked their location and they were nearby, but not at all on a street that we typically take to get to the event. And it looked like they were parked on a random side street for a while. They finally arrived with a few minutes to spare, and as I was helping them out, one of my children said, "We're late," to which I responded by saying, "You're always late," in what I thought was a joking way. And trust me, this was a big mistake on my part. My mom looked irritated and I tried to check in with her several times, but she got in the driver's seat and said very aggressively, "I need a minute and he can get lost." And then she drove away. I was hoping that she would just park and come back, but when it was clear that she wasn't planning to come to story time, I just went ahead and I did the activity without her. When she still wasn't there about 40 minutes later, I started to get worried and I checked her location. But when I checked, I saw that she had turned her location off. And when I called her, she didn't answer. her. I then called my sister to see if she could check in on her, but she also didn't answer the phone when she called. I then waited another 10 minutes or so and then sent her a text message that said, "Hey, I know you're mad, I get it, but I'm gonna need you to come back and pick up the kids. It's been nearly an hour and they're getting squirrely. Or at least let me know if you're not coming back so I can have my partner close down our brick and mortar bookstore and come pick them up." After about 5 more minutes, I called my husband and I explained the situation so that he could come get everybody since we didn't have a vehicle or car seats for the kids. But as I'm on the phone with him, I see her drive by. I walked over to her and she was cool as a cucumber. I asked if she was okay and got the kids in the car as they were starting to melt down at this point, all while my dad watched my booth. I then said something to her like, "Hey, I'm pretty upset and I know you're mad and I'm sorry, but this wasn't okay. We were worried and not sure how to get the kids home." Well, when I said that, she went off on me, asking why she can't have a little time when she asked for it. She even refused to admit that she had been gone as long as she had, which is really crazy because I even showed her the time. I then said to her, "Hey, it's fine, but it's not cool to do that at my work, and that we were stranded without a car. Plus, it was really inappropriate to leave with a car and the car seats and then not answer the phone." I then told her it would have been fine if she had just let me know, but I couldn't even check her location because she had turned it off. She then said that she didn't like feeling like she was being tracked all the time, and that she wasn't gone long enough for me to be upset. I was like, "Okay, but we had no clue when you were coming back." And I explained that I had asked my husband to come pick everybody up. Well, when I said that, she laughed at me, said that I was the one overreacting inappropriately, and that she can take as much time as she needs. She also didn't seem to believe me that I didn't have a car there. I then started to walk away, but at this point I was pretty upset. So I doubled back and I said that I wasn't going to let her gaslight me and make it seem like I was the one acting poorly. Now, I'm not proud of this next part, but I told her that leaving her grandkids like that with no transportation was a psychotic move to make, and that she needs therapy if she thinks that's appropriate. And again, I'm not proud of saying that. She then said that she could say the same about me. She then laughed at me again and said that I'm ridiculous, and sarcastically said that she's sorry that she traumatized me. But I was like, listen, you have to be able to admit that this wasn't okay, and it's not fair to turn it around on me. Plus, she can never admit when she's wrong. She then was like, "Oh, I can absolutely admit when I'm wrong." But I said to her, "Well, if you could, then you would say, 'Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have let you know, and no, that wasn't cool.'" Which she then sarcastically said right back to me. I then said to her, "Oh, cool, awesome." And then I walked away to tell my dad to head home with her, only to then see her drive away with my kids in the car, stranding my dad once again. I called him an Uber, and apparently when he got home, she was actually shocked that he took an Uber and asked why we didn't have a car there, even though I had literally just told her. My dad eventually came back to get me and helped me pack up. When I got home, she was outside with the kids, and I came out and sat down, and she just left and went back inside. My dad encouraged me to make up with her, so after about 10 minutes, I went in and she was in her bed. I asked her if she wanted to talk, and she said no, and so I just left. Now, with all that in mind, I guess I'm just trying to figure out and understand how at fault I am here. Did I overreact in some way? Also, how can I even begin to repair this relationship? This is definitely the worst fight we've had in a very long time, and I'm genuinely freaked out, and I just don't know what to do now. Okay, seriously, the way your mom is acting first and foremost is crazy. You mean to tell me that the lady who is always late got upset because someone said something about her being late, which then led to her like ghosting everybody for an hour, only to then act like this was not her fault? Are you kidding me right now? She stranded you and your kids at a place where you have no way of getting home. She's got the car seats, she's got the car. She was potentially about to upend pretty much everybody's life just to make sure you and especially your kids got home safely. So for her to come back and be like, "What's wrong? I just needed some time to myself." And it's like, sure, if you're 14, this might be reasonable, but as someone who's in their 60s, you should know better ways of like managing your emotions. Like, holy crap, talk about being emotionally immature. Not to mention putting everybody in such a weird position. Like, she knew for a fact she held all the power and all the cards in that situation. So she absolutely could stall this out as long as possible and make your life miserable, which is the only reason she did this twice, by the way. Once the first time at the beginning of the event, and then the second time by leaving her husband behind, all while speeding off with your kids. Like, holy crap. If that's not inappropriate and very upsetting, I don't know what is. So for me, if I was in your shoes and I had these events on a regular basis, I would absolutely stop asking for her help. Like, honestly, this is some crazy behavior that you do not need. And by the way, it's not that hard to be on time to stuff. You just have to like schedule it properly and actually respect the people you're showing up for, which from the sound of it, your mom does not respect you or anybody else in that household. And that absolutely needs to be corrected because she's the one living with you, not the other way around. My entitled coworker makes my job a living nightmare as she constantly is trying to get me fired and make me look bad. But after dealing with her garbage for years, I finally got revenge by literally getting her fired after she got exposed to management and basically the entire company for being incredibly incompetent. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been an assistant bakery and deli manager for like 6 years now. In those years, we had someone who I will call Jill take over the previous manager's position, and she did this basically by backstabbing everybody and lying. And even though this was a position that was supposed to go to me, she had a friend in upper management that got her transferred over, and basically she took it right from underneath me. Jill never did any of the work. She left things for me to do at the last minute, took 4-day weekends, intentionally missed orders to try and make me look bad, literally the whole 9 yards. Now, I put up with it for years, and every time I brought it up with management, they gave an excuse or sort of just brushed me off. The company has a union, so getting someone with even a year of seniority over you in trouble is almost impossible. I was doing more and more of the work, making sure orders went off on time, fixing the ones that she would forget or mess up, covering shifts, calling people to come in if she intentionally underscheduled us, as well as training and all this other stuff. And honestly, it was a headache. During this time, I got married, which as a side note, she tried to deny me my vacation time to do so, and I had a hectic schedule that my husband graciously understood. I dealt with it for another few years and just got so tired with everything. But then the real kicker came along. I got pregnant with our first child, and I decided right then and there that once I left for maternity, I wasn't going back. I did everything by the books. I notified management and the union, I scheduled doctor's visits and worked around my schedule. I made sure that there was no possible way she could mess with me. And once I heard the due date, I grinned a maniacal smile deep in my soul because my baby was due in the month of April, right before the busiest time of any deli or bakery. That's right, I'm talking about graduation. When you're in a town with over 3 colleges and 4 high schools just in a 10-mile radius, you get a lot of orders to fill. I even had a reputation for color matching certain school colors and doing cakes at the last minute. On any given day for those months, they could have anywhere from 15 to over 150 cakes going out in a weekend. And we're talking just from Friday to Sunday, and to make matters worse for them, I was the only cake decorator. I let them know that they had to get someone in and hired for me to train multiple times, or else they would be in dire straits, especially since Jill didn't like decorating. But you know what? They never listened, just like always. So after 4 months, I just stopped reminding them. I let it go, and it honestly felt great. Then I decided to use one of my vacations during the week before delivery, which is a good thing I did because the baby was ready anyways. And even still, they had not found a cake decorator at all. The day I delivered my baby, guess who finally got demoted? Jill had scheduled one of her classic 4-day weekends again, missed 3 supply orders, didn't cover my shift, and the icing on the cake is that she left 19 cake orders unfulfilled for a Friday and didn't let management know about them at all. When Friday morning came around and she wasn't there was a line of angry customers wondering where their cakes were. Upper store management was called in. People from 2 different departments who had some experience on cakes were pulling pre-made quarter sheets and randomly throwing sprinkles this way and that and giving out the cakes just for free. Like seriously, over $1,000 in products having to be given to customers for free. Apparently, this also happened on a day the district manager was set to come in and do a tour to make sure that things were set up for graduation. Needless to say, she got demoted and moved from the department the very day that she came back into the store. Because of course, she turned off her phone over the weekend so that no one would disturb her. Now, I only know this because they called to see if I could come back for a day or 2 for my vacation to fix everything, because they had not known that I had the baby yet and just thought I was still heavily pregnant. Well, for the past 6 months, I've now been a stay-at-home mom, and I simply cannot be happier without all the stress from there. They still ask if I want my old job back when I grocery shop there, but I just smile and I tell them no thank you. Although I do miss some of my coworkers, because now I get to raise an amazing little boy and bake cakes for fun instead of for a job. Oh, dude, this is such a great story. I love the fact that you got revenge here and you basically got her fired from that job. Like seriously, for starters, this lady tried to deny you getting any vacation time just to get married. And that would really piss me off if I was in your shoes, like holy crap. And it's pretty obvious that Jill knew you were supposed to be the person to take that job, which is the only reason why she made your life a living nightmare for years. But I'm kind of convinced that people like this eventually get exposed in a way that they cannot recover from, especially when they're getting away with 4-day weekends. Like, bro, what is going on? She only did that because she knew for a fact you were going to cover it, and that is so unacceptable in my opinion. So good for you for getting your revenge, because this lady absolutely deserves it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen kept shoving past me in a crowded concert line trying to get to the front. So I got some petty revenge by literally spilling some tea on her, which was more than enough to remind her that no, she shouldn't be doing this, and yes, she absolutely needs to go back to the end of the line. Here's how I did it. Okay, so last weekend, my friends and I were stoked to attend a concert that we've been hyping up for weeks. The line to get to the venue was absolute chaos. Think sardines in a can, with everyone freezing in the chilly evening air. To stay warm, we grabbed some hot tea from a vendor nearby, and we're just sipping it while chatting and waiting our turn like civilized human beings. Well, enter this group of girls who decide lines are absolutely optional. They weave through the crowds, elbowing their way toward the front, and one girl in particular zeroed in on our spot, shoving past my friends and I without even so much as saying excuse me. I'm usually really chill, but after 45 minutes of waiting in the cold, I was completely over it. I gave her a gentle nudge back to hold my ground, but she just scoffed and kept pushing, practically stepping on my toes in the packed crowd. And at this point, I was fed up, but I also saw my moment. As she squeezed past me, still shoving like she owned the place, I pretended to lose my balance and tilted my cup of tea just enough for a small splash to land on her jacket. Now, this was nothing scalding, but just enough to make her yelp and shoot me a death glare. I played it off with a quick, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's super crowded," and she muttered something under her breath and scurried back to her group, suddenly less eager to cut ahead. The best part is my friends saw the whole thing and were stifling laughs as we finally got into the concert, feeling just a tiny bit warmer for my petty victory. And in the long run, no harm was actually done, just a little tea-stained justice that this lady absolutely deserved. Oh man, imagine going to a concert and then trying to cut to the head of the line. Like, you have got to be either brave or incredibly stupid, and from the sounds of it, this lady was absolutely stupid. Because dude, waiting in line at a concert is like sacred territory. Some people wait in these lines for days, bro. You're not about to just cut in front of them and think it's okay. So in my opinion, I think you did a good thing by reminding her that yeah, a lot worse can happen to her than some spilled tea, because truly, someone could have had a much more violent reaction to her cutting in front of everybody. So I think the way you handle this in the long run is a lot better of an option than getting punched in the face, which is something this lady easily could have encountered if she kept going. An entitled Karen at my gym tries to use her lipstick to write an X on equipment that she's going to use, which absolutely backfired in spectacular fashion as this lady ended up getting banned from my gym. Here's how it went down. Okay, so this happened yesterday afternoon at the gym. A woman was making her way to different pieces of equipment in the gym, only she didn't sit down to use any of it. Instead, she used her lipstick to make X's on the equipment. So I walk over and I ask her what she's doing after she puts an X on the final piece of equipment, and it's here that she actually tells me that she's labeling which equipment she will be using when she comes out of the locker room, and then she disappears to go change, I guess. Well, when she returns, she finds everything she had labeled occupied, and she actually walks over to me as I'm training someone and says, "Okay, what's going on here? I reserved these spots." I then told her there's no reserving equipment, and people had to clean up her marks before using the equipment. I then told her if I caught her using any kind of makeup again, in the way where she was like trying to claim it by putting a mark on it, you know, while she's in the locker room changing, I will get my boss to talk to her about how it's unsanitary to use any kind of makeup on our equipment just to try and reserve some arbitrary spot. In the end, she had to wait for every piece of equipment, and then she got to get her workouts in. Now, I would hope that this is the end of it, but trust me, it gets way worse. I saw the woman today, and I got my boss to let her know that the lipstick bandit, which is absolutely what I nicknamed this woman, by the way, was currently present in the gym. My boss then approached her, and the two went towards my boss's office. Well, no more than 7 minutes passed by before the woman was heard screaming. She was saying, "This isn't fair. You can't ban me just because I marked what equipment I'm going to be using." And it was here that the woman stormed off towards the locker rooms and then stormed by me with her gym bag in hand, looking like she was about to scream. But thankfully she left after that, and I haven't seen her ever since. Okay, I'm gonna say this right now, that is incredibly gross. Seriously, don't put lipstick on equipment at a gym. If you want to do that with your own crap, go ahead, but don't do that for like public equipment that everybody uses. That is really nasty, and I think her getting banned was absolutely the best decision. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that she is also to blame for why my brother and I won't host our parents for the holidays? Because truly, my parents hate each other and they are constantly arguing. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake by telling her the truth. Here's what's going on. So last Christmas was my brother's first holiday not living at home with our parents. He wanted to host everyone in his new apartment, and also around this time last year, my parents had mutually agreed not to get each other gifts as they were focusing on paying off some debt. But apparently there was some miscommunication. My dad thought this meant no gifts at all, and my mom thought this meant no gifts, but they'd still exchange stockings. In our family, stockings are always small stuff. Body care, candy, stuff like that. You get the picture. I was living with my parents last year, and I had heard all the discussions. I honestly saw both sides of it, but when Christmas morning came around, we all woke up and mom didn't have her stocking filled from dad. And I noticed that she was very quiet, but very clearly hurt. He then ran out to the pharmacy quickly, bought some things to fill her stocking, and said the entire time that he was sorry. Now, should my dad have communicated better? Sure, absolutely. And do I understand my mom's feelings were hurt by the situation? Also, sure, I totally get it. But I thought they'd get past it, especially for lunch at my brother's place. We eventually go, and my dad is doing his best to make up for his blunder. In the meantime, my mom is in a terrible mood and keeps picking at him all day long. Toward the end of our time there, she ended up making a snarky remark about my dad not filling her stocking. And it's here that my dad flipped out and started screaming that nothing he ever does is enough, and then he stormed out. My brother was also clearly upset by having Christmas ruined by their arguing, and I eventually convinced my mom that we should leave not long after that. My brother and I were upset with both of them. My dad should not have flipped out and screamed, and my mom also should have kept her comments to herself or just spoken to my dad later on. My brother was also embarrassed as his roommate had come home, and while he was in his living room, he overheard the arguing. My brother stopped having my parents over altogether after that, even though he would still invite me, and my brother would also visit us from my parents' place. Well, Thanksgiving is fast approaching, and we were all trying to coordinate plans. I recently got my own place, but honestly, I don't want to host after last year. My brother said he's never hosting another holiday at his apartment ever again. My mom was hurt by this, but eventually we all just planned to have dinner at my parents' place again. Later on, my mom was complaining to me that my brother won't have us over anymore, and that she's feeling pushed out. She then said it was my dad's fault, and she shouldn't be punished for what happened. But I told her that while dad was wrong for screaming, she chose to be whiny all day long. I clarified that I understood she was hurt, but she also partially ruined the day by not letting it go. My mom got mad at me and accused me of taking sides, and I said that I'm not. If dad complained, I would have told him the same thing, but he at least seems to understand that he ruined it. I also pointed out that neither of them ever apologized to my brother, and I'm not confident that they'd never do it again. My mom says I'm in the wrong for how I spoke to her, but honestly, I'm just not sure. Now, for additional context, this is not my parents' first time having an argument like this, because in fact, in the past, it hasn't always been about Christmas, but it's been about other stuff too. They really do hate each other if I'm being honest, but they stay married due to the fact that they can't afford to get a divorce and live separately. And when I say they hate each other, I mean that their screaming matches are constant, and they have ruined other family events too. We've suggested therapy, but they won't go. They just want to stay trapped and miserable. And yet when my brother and I bickered about stupid stuff as kids, they would scream at us for ruining their peace. But we're now at the point where they don't get to do this stuff without some kind of consequence. And you know what? This is the consequence. So with all that in mind, am I the jerk for telling my mom that she's also to blame? Because right now I'm not sure if I stepped over a line. No, you're not the jerk. Your mom and dad absolutely know what they're doing. They complain all the time, and all this crap carries over into the family, and that's not fair for you or anybody else. And yeah, I completely agree. You absolutely should be putting down your foot and being like, hey, this is the boundary. You can either follow it and everybody gets along, or you can be weird and then there's gonna be consequences. Because this is one of those situations where consequences are absolutely deserved. Am I the jerk for not letting my mom use my apartment as storage? As she literally is trying to get me to take 5 boxes of Christmas decorations, even though at the time it was the middle of July. Because right now I'm very frustrated and I just don't know if I'm making a mistake. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 30-year-old female and I finally moved out of my family home. I saved enough money to get myself a down payment on a second-floor apartment, and I wanted to move out because my mom always puts house decor all over the place, even when there's no room for it. And she even accepts furniture from relatives that we just can't fit in the house. When I said that I was moving out, she gave me most of the furniture that she had gotten, and I happily accepted it because I don't have a lot of money left to spend. So I got 2 bedside drawers, a couch, a bookshelf, and all I took from the house is my bed, with the frame included because I bought it, and the second TV, which I also bought. And I'm seriously loving living by myself. A few months passed by and my mom asked me to hold on to a few things, and it was 5 boxes of Christmas decorations. And I said to her, Mom, it's July. What is this? She then said to me, I know, but I need space for some things that I bought for the house. Well, I was only okay with it after I told her it's until she can make room for it. Fast forward and it's been weeks, so now whenever she visits, it's always to drop something off because there's literally no room in her house. This time, after a landlord inspection, I told her that she can't drop anything off at my apartment anymore because it's getting too much, and my landlord had to cite me for the mess I was making. So when I told her that she had to either make room or get rid of it, she told me I was okay with her doing this, but I was never okay with it. I told her to take it or else I'm just gonna throw it away. It's not mine. Like, she always asked me to put stuff in my room closet when I live with her, so now I'm just gonna put my foot down on this. I have a minimalist apartment, which I do as best as I can, plus it's not that big. So for storage, there's only a small hat closet, as well as a bedroom closet, but I need that to fit my clothes and my shoes. And she seriously expects me to hold her stuff? Like, no, not this time, I'm not doing it. It's not my stuff, it's hers. So I told her she can either take it out of my apartment or else I'm just gonna throw it away. So with all that in mind, am I the jerk for asking my mom to do this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, there's no way you're the jerk here. You mean to tell me that you got written up by your landlord all because your mom was storing crap at your place? Like, okay, that is like the last and only straw I would ever deal with, because that is some crazy talk. What do you mean you got written up? At that point, I would start putting it down by the curb and be like, okay, you better go get this because I'm not gonna keep it. And also, what's your mom doing buying Christmas decorations in July? That sounds really obnoxious in my opinion, and I would hate everything about that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because your mom is being very irrational. My mom is in the throes of a midlife crisis that is literally destroying the entire family, as I'm literally a bystander to her antics, and at this point, I just don't know how to intervene. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old male, I'm a middle child living in the United States, and I have an insanely large family. There is literally 10 of us. To be clear, this is a family made from adoption and marriage, so while I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters, 3 of them are step-siblings, 1's a half-sibling, and 3 cousins were adopted. My mom is 47 years old, and my stepfather is 56 and have been married for almost 20 years. We never had a lot of money growing up, but managed to scrape by and we're all doing mostly alright. Not to say that my parents didn't do their best to raise us well. None of us have ever been arrested or have gotten into any kind of trouble with the law, and we have mostly since broken up into groups that live on our own. I currently live with my stepbrother and cousin in this apartment in my town, and I've been here ever since I was 19 years old. Now at this point, I've been mainly an observer in this recently developed behavior from my mom, and it is quite concerning to say the least. When I say we never had a lot of money, I absolutely mean it. My parents worked really hard to raise us, but they were not fiscally responsible, to the point where we were constantly called by collection agencies and getting our stuff repossessed. This hasn't changed too much since we've become adults, but with a lack of kids to raise, you would assume that my parents could finally find a footing and save their money. But no, it never happened. For the last few years, my mother and sister have become more like high school best friends that literally travel together constantly, going on concert tours and spending weeks away from home, and leaving my 2 cousins all by themselves. Well, while this isn't a big deal in its own right, 2 of them are disabled and need supervision, as one frequently experiences severe seizures and the other is developmentally disabled. My stepdad is there every day, but he works as an electrician and doesn't get home until later in the evening. What really bothers me is my cousin being left alone. I really care about them, and they are essentially my own siblings at this point, and I'm annoyed that my mother won't get the one with seizures on medication and claims that there isn't a neurologist that can prescribe him medication in our town, which by the way, that is completely false. My family also has a large amount of animals that are left alone, including birds, cats, dogs, and reptiles which do not get the care that they need most of the day. I visit when I can, but I'm currently working full-time and attending college, so my hands are really tied. This is the same with most of my siblings that have moved out, and some have even been alienated, to the point where they will likely never step foot in that house ever again. All of my siblings, except for my sister and the youngest brother, have expressed concerns for these developments. My disabled cousin that lives with me is also highly agitated because my mom owes him $1,000. My grandparents are also owed money and can't do much to help since they're in poor health. Another thing that bothers me is that my youngest sibling, who is the only one still attending high school, is going with them on these vacations and is missing sometimes 10 weeks of school a year. In fact, it got so bad that a truancy officer had to get involved. There's also some other concerning behavior that I've noticed too, such as a blatant disregard for responsibility on the home front. Last year, for example, my mother went to Disney World with a few colleagues and forgot to pay the electrical bill, which caused the family home to be without power for like 2 weeks. I literally had to bring siblings in just to shower or to sleep at my place. And for reference, we live in the South and it gets really hot here during the summer. Also, my mother is financing her dream car, even though it isn't really affordable at like $600 a month. At the end of the day, I know this is some kind of like midlife crisis, but the excessive vacations in lieu of saving for retirement, as well as her getting a sports car and other behavior, is something that just honestly is really concerning. However, all of my concerns are always brushed aside, and I just don't know what to do anymore. My stepdad seems to be alright with it, but at this point, he's going to be working and renting the family home until he passes away. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I know people like this, and I know family members who act like this, and honestly, I don't know if I have a good answer for you in like what you should and shouldn't do. I know when I'm in this situation and I see them just completely wasting their life away and making terrible decisions, I just take a step back and I say to myself, I'm not getting involved and I'm not giving them any money. Like, I refuse to enable this behavior, and maybe that might be the attitude that you need to take as well. Because what you're describing is really alarming, especially for the pets. Like, think about it, she's leaving them without any kind of care or help, maybe even forgetting to like feed them. Like, dude, that is sick. That is messed up. Like, that alone would probably make me call some kind of organization to report her, because that's not okay. You can't do that and think you can get away with it. It's also really sad that even after all these years, she's still incredibly irresponsible with her money. Like, just look at the vacation she's going on, leaving for weeks at a time and just saying, okay, I'll be back whenever I get back. Like, holy crap, get a grip, lady. You have responsibilities. There are people and animals relying on you, and you can't just walk away like that. So truly, I'm sorry that you're dealing with this. I'm so sorry that your mom's kind of going through it, but it's honestly no good excuse in my opinion. She absolutely needs to get her life together, whether that's of her like figuring it out herself or you reporting her and getting it going that way, which at this point I don't think would be a bad idea considering all the details that you shared. Like, this is really concerning, and I think something absolutely should be done. My brother's future sister-in-law decided that instead of watching our cat for us like we hired her to do so, she was going to have a party at my house while also neglecting my cat, forgetting to give it any water or food. And now, after having all the evidence compiled on my cameras, I'm considering taking this lady to small claims court for all the damages and money that I had to spend just so I could get home early to save my cat. Because right now my entire family's pissed off at me and I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I live in a highly desirable part of a big city. This is a high cost of living city, but we usually have college kids that we know who live at home who are willing to watch our cat when we're out of town for a decent daily rate. Although a couple of them would offer to do it for free since they get a break from their parents, get to use a nice gaming system, and walk to a bunch of nice bars and restaurants. Now, my partner and I were going to an anniversary trip, and my brother's fiance's sister said that she'd be excited to stay. She loves our neighborhood and lives with her grandma, so it really would be a nice break for her. We were planning to pay her $25 a night, and she said it would be great. And for reference, she's in her mid to late 20s. The rules were simple. Stay the night so that the cat would not be lonely, no overnight guests, no loud sounds past 10 o'clock due to quiet hours, and on top of that, we asked that she would send us daily updates just so we can know what's going on. Well, for the last couple of days, she hasn't really been responding or even reaching out to begin with, and I honestly got worried and decided to check our ring footage, which by the way is something I had not been checking just to maintain her privacy. It then turns out that she has not been home in like 24 hours. She also had not spent the night before that either like she agreed to. Our cat had not had any food, and it was at this point that I freaked out. We finally got a hold of her, and she was so nonchalant about not being there. She then went to our house to feed our cat and showed us footage of the house like I had asked for in the first place. Now, the first thing that I saw was that my cat's water supply was super low, and secondly, there were blankets on the couch as if someone had been sleeping there. Now, I asked her about this, but of course she said no one had been doing that. But when I checked the footage, it's here that I discovered she threw a party and had some overnight guests. She then let me know that she was uncomfortable that I was checking footage now and would not be spending any more time there, and then just decided to leave. We're now scrambling to get someone else there to feed our cat, but we will probably just leave tomorrow and forfeit all of our hotel cost. And right now, if I'm being completely honest, I am livid, and I want to take her to small claims court for the hotel costs and the flight changes. Well, my brother's fiance said that she would leave him if I do that, and on top of that, my family is telling me to forgive and forget and just to be nicer. So seriously, with all things considered, am I overreacting by being pissed off at my future in-law's sister for the way that she treated my cat, as well as the way that she disrespected my home? Because right now I'm really angry and I just don't know what to do. Okay, I want to first start off by saying that the brother's fiance is a complete moron, and the fact that her marriage is so fragile based on her sister's stupid decision, in my opinion, shows that she's not really a good fiance to begin with, and she probably is a garbage human being like her sister. Because holy crap, what do you mean she threw a party and didn't take care of the cat? Like, dude, you broke pretty much all the rules about even staying there in the first place. All you had to do was take care of the cat and not have anybody over there, but instead you decided to not take care of the cat and nearly let it like die of thirst, and also have a party and have people sleep there overnight. And then on top of that, you're like, I can't believe you spied on all the crap you didn't want me to do. I'm gonna leave and make your life a living nightmare. Like, she just straight up left after she got exposed as if you did anything wrong. But it's like, holy crap, I didn't hire you to have a party at my house. I hired you to take care of my cat and make sure it doesn't die while I'm gone. So truly, if I was in your shoes, and I can only speak for myself, I 100% would take her to small claims court. Like, seriously, you've got footage of her messing around, you got footage of the cat having no food or water for like 24 hours, and that would be more than enough reason for me to be like, okay, you've got to be punished for this. And I love the fact that it's always family that steps in and says, no, you got to keep the peace. You need to forgive and forget. Don't do this to the family. And it's like, wait a second, I didn't do anything. The original poster is not at fault here. Them reacting to this and being like, oh, I'm going to sue you and I'm going to take you to court. That's not the real problem here. The problem falls with the fiance's sister who literally did all of this. They're the reason this happened, and that's the person you should be pissed off at, not the original poster who's probably out like over $1,000 getting everything switched over. So no, you are not the jerk and you're not overreacting if you went this route, because the way they're acting is incredibly backwards. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled rich husband and his family make fun of the fact that I was poor growing up, as they openly mock me at a family get-together that truly makes me feel like absolute garbage. So I decided to get some petty revenge that truly shut them down in a way they were not expecting, eventually leading to my divorce from my now ex-husband, because that family was a nightmare to deal with and I'm so glad to be away from them. Here's what happened. Okay, so back in 2018, I married my now ex-husband. He came from money and grew up in the upper class. I mean, he never lacked anything. Well, I'm the complete opposite. I grew up extremely poor and learned very early on that you have to work hard and have your own back. We met at his uncle's restaurant where I was a server. He was eating at the restaurant and I was his server that day, and it's here that he asked for my number and we completely hit it off, or so I thought, because after we got married, his true colors were quick to follow. Like, this guy was a complete narcissist, and I only say that because he is actually diagnosed as such. This story takes place when I met his sister and her boyfriend for the first time. We picked them up from the airport and he introduces us. She then eagerly says, oh my god, she's totally Jordan's. And it's here that her boyfriend agrees, and my husband even lets out a chuckle. And it's here that I say, okay, well, what is Jordan's? And my husband tells me that it means that I have great style. So I thank her for the compliment and I just think nothing of it. Throughout their visit, they start calling me Jordan's, and I accept it as some kind of like cute nickname, like, oh great, they actually like me. But literally all of that changed one night when we decided to all get drunk. We popped open some wine, and as we drank more and more, they started commenting on how crappy and cheap my wine was. I kind of just shook it off as they decided to play stupid drinking games, and of course, as you can probably guess, truth or dare is one of them. My husband's sister then dared him to tell me what Jordan's was, and the entire time they're all just laughing like chickens and just totally drunk. He then says to me, oh, Jordan's is the name we give homeless people who have swag. And in that moment, I'm completely dumbfounded as they all burst into more laughter. Now, I was not as drunk as everyone else, and I just sat there trying not to cry. Fast forward to the next day, and it's here that I asked my hungover husband what their problem was. I mean, he definitely completely removed that fact that he had told me, but he said, oh, it's just a joke, don't take it seriously. But you know what? I didn't let it go, and I kept pressing the matter. He then finally told me, well, I may have told them about your upbringing and how you are not like us, just to prepare them. And when he said that, I was in complete shock. To prepare them for me? I could not believe what I was hearing. I then spent the next few days to myself, making excuses and just trying to stay busy. My husband had bought an expensive bottle of tequila that we were supposed to drink the night before they left. The day before the last, they went on a hike, which I definitely excused myself from, and I thought to myself, okay, it's time for just a little bit of payback. Let's test your elite palates. I then videotaped myself swapping out the expensive bottle of tequila for something much cheaper. In the video, I sit back and I enjoy shots of tequila, talking about my upbringing, the love and closeness I share with my family, and how fortunate I was to have grown up not being a disgusting piece of garbage snob like the family I married into. And seriously, I went off on these these people. I got drunk and I went to bed by the time they got back, so I didn't have to engage with them, and they didn't know I was drunk off of $200 worth of tequila. The last night, I watched these idiots sip the tequila like wine and actually start to comment on how distinguished and delicate it was. They mention, "Oh, you can taste the quality," and I'm sitting there enjoying every word that came out of their stupid mouths. I then get up and connect my phone to the TV, and I say to them, "I put something together for you guys to say thank you for your visit." I then hit play and watch as they start to understand what just happened and what they were actually drinking. Satisfied with the result, I start gathering shot glasses off the table while the echo of total silence hits the walls. They said nothing to me. I then went to bed, only to then have my husband wake me up in an outrage, telling me his sister was crying because I humiliated them. But I just looked at him and I said, "Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?" They left the next day and never spoke to me ever again. Even when we visited their parents in Europe, she still refused to come see us. Well, it's safe to say that I'm now divorced, and honestly, with all things considered, I could not be happier. Holy crap, what a nightmare. Like, your husband and his family are a piece of garbage, dude. The first thing his sister said when she saw you was like, "Oh yeah, she's got the swag of a homeless person." Like, good lord, talk about hating you right off the bat for no reason. You didn't even do anything other than, oh, I don't know, have an upbringing that doesn't involve a crap ton of money. Like, if the ex-husband in this story has to warn people about his wife, almost as if he's like embarrassed of you, where it's like, "Oh yeah, she's not like us. She didn't grow up with a bunch of money." Like, dude, if that's really how you feel, why did you get married to her? Why not find some other lady who's also rich and be like, "Oh, we'll be rich together"? Because it's pretty obvious that you definitely don't like her. Like, dude, just get a grip and move on. Why force her to be subjected to all this mistreatment? Like, I just don't get it. So good for you for your petty revenge. I love it so much. I think it really was a good way of like firing right back at them. And also good for you for getting out of that marriage and getting away from that family. Because I'm sure this is probably the tip of the iceberg when it comes to their entitlement. And I can only imagine how bad things really were when no one was watching, especially with your husband being a narcissist. My entitled Karen of a neighbor screamed at me for not letting their kid swim in my pool anytime he wants to, as she claims that I have no right to do so despite the fact that this is my house and I'm the one who makes the rules. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just bought my first house this summer. It's nothing fancy, but it has a small in-ground pool in the backyard, which was honestly the main selling point for me. I've been working crazy hours, so the pool is kind of my little sanctuary to relax on the weekends. A few weeks after moving in, I noticed a group of kids hanging around my fence line when I was outside. Now, I thought that maybe they were just curious. I mean, whatever. But then one afternoon, I came home early and I found two actual children in my backyard swimming in my pool. And just to make things clear, they had no permission, no supervision, and just full on splashing around like it was a community center. Well, when I saw this, I told them to get out immediately, which thankfully is what they did. But about 30 minutes later, a woman in her mid-40s came banging on my door. She started yelling that her son and his friend have always used that pool because apparently the last owners didn't mind. I then just calmly explained that I wasn't the last owner and that no one was allowed in my yard without my permission. When I said this, she rolled her eyes and said, "It's just water. What's the big deal?" But I said to her, the big deal is liability and boundaries. She then accused me of being anti-kid and told me I was ruining summer for the neighborhood. But I told her I don't allow the neighborhood in my backyard. Well, she then stomped off saying that she would talk to the homeowners association. Ever since then, I've noticed little wet footprints near my side gate twice now. So I decided to buy a padlock. So I can't believe I have to say this, but just because something used to be allowed doesn't mean it still is. Because this absolutely is my house now, and I'm the one who gets to set the rules. Okay, I think padlocks are great, but holy crap do you need cameras at your place. Because you've got it right, dude, this is all about liability and boundaries, but mostly liability. If one of those kids croaks and drowns in your pool, guess who's gonna get blamed? Not the mom for not watching them, but you for having the pool there. Like, that's crazy in my opinion. She'd be like, "Oh, it's just a little bit of water. What's the big deal?" And it's like, yeah, and guess what can happen when you get in water and you're a child and you don't know how to swim? You drown, lady. Why would I want that in my backyard? So yeah, you made the right choice, but also set up some cameras. Because based on what you're describing, I'm kind of convinced they're doing this while you're not at home, and that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Am I the jerk for asking my friend for reimbursement for some alcohol that we had after he let me stay at his house for about a week while visiting him? Because at this point, he is freaking out on me, and I'm honestly not sure how to solve this situation. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this week I went on a trip to Europe where I first visited my family in one country and then went to my friend in another country where he was living as a refugee. When visiting the first country, I bought some alcohol as it was a lot cheaper there, and as I was shopping, I called him up and I asked what he wanted. We both agreed on the type, and he then said that we would figure out how to split the cost. Now, I spent 5 days living at his and his family's apartment, visiting different places nearby with this friend, and had a good time there overall. There were no conflicts during that time, and they even shared their food with me, and I did the same with the food that I brought. Well, after that, I went back to the first country, and I remembered that we left the matter of the bought alcohol unfinished. I mean, he didn't mention anything about payment during my stay. I then requested that he pay for only his half of the hard liquor that I bought. And for reference, I also bought some beer, but that was more like a souvenir and a gift for me. I also need to mention that his financial situation is tight now, being a refugee and not having a job at the moment. I then added that he can pay when it is convenient for him, and that I'm not pushing for immediate pay at all. Well, after that, he hit me with the wall of text about how I'm being ungrateful to him, that he gave me a place to sleep, to shower, he shared his food, spent time and money on traveling with me, and that he's in shock with my request. And now he's beginning to think that I was just a freeloader there, where I just didn't value his hospitality. He said that he thought that I might ask him for reimbursement, but really hoped that he was mistaken, and that I wouldn't dare to do that, as he feels in his own words that it would put an end to their friendship. After that, he decided to count all the money he spent on my stay, including rent for living in his flat, sharing their food with me, and other expenses as a way to compare my request for reimbursement, and in his words, give a cold shower. I then told him that he was overreacting to all of this, and tried to appeal to his own words, that we were to deal with this issue later together. I also told him that I was in fact grateful for his hospitality, and it's here that I also apologized if I offended him. He also then said that I was insensitive and did not read the mood properly, and that his reaction was completely natural. I said that we can forget about this reimbursement, as for me, it wasn't worth the whole friendship, and if he were to ask beforehand not to pay for it, I wouldn't mind. I also added some explanation as to why I asked for reimbursement based on my experience in similar situations, but he just discarded all of it, stating that this is not about the money, and that I'm just looking for excuses for my ungrateful behavior, and that I should make better conclusions from my bad behavior. He seemed to cool off a bit by the end of the conversation, but even still, I could tell he was very bitter about all of this. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Holy crap, I've got so much to say about this, like, dude, are you kidding me right now? But just to get it out of the way, yeah, you are absolutely the jerk here. You literally went to a refugee who has nothing right now and said to them, oh, you owe me for the hard liquor I bought for us, completely ignoring the fact that they literally housed you for 5 days. Like, are you kidding me right now? What a short-sighted, crappy thing to say. Like, I can't imagine trying to shake someone down who literally has nothing right now and being like, oh, by the way, you need to pay me back. Like, brother, read the room. This guy probably has nothing. He barely has any money. He doesn't have a job. He's a refugee, bro. Like, what are you doing right now? So I can confidently say if my friend did that when they're visiting me in my lowest state of my life, I would probably never talk to them ever again. Because for me, this definitely would be a deal breaker, and there would be no coming back from that. Am I the jerk for not letting a kid eat my food after they walked up and basically tried to steal it from us? Because right now my boyfriend's saying that I'm being selfish, despite the fact that I literally don't know this kid and I'm just trying to be careful. Here's what happened. The other day, I was at the mall with my boyfriend and our 2 kids, and we were sitting eating a bag of roasted chestnuts when this one kid, who's about 10 years old, starts hovering all around us. Now, I will admit, I'm not the biggest fan of any kid that doesn't belong to me, so this alone was already annoying me slightly, but even still, I decided to smile at him and just act like nothing was wrong. Well, then he calls my son over and whispers in his ear, and I just knew in that moment it was about the chestnuts that we were eating. My son then nods yes, and the boy comes up to me and reaches for a chestnut. I then moved the bag and I said, no, you have to go ask your parents. When I said this, my boyfriend got upset, called me rude, and handed a chestnut to the boy. Well, the boy then leaves, and I tell my boyfriend that he should not have done that you don't just give food to a strange kid. The boy then hovers back around us and without a word snatches 2 chestnuts from the bag that my boyfriend was now holding. I then stand up and I said very firmly, I'm sorry, but you can't just take our stuff like that. Go to your parents. He then put them back and ran off, and if I'm being honest, I think the kid had no education. On top of that, I wasn't gonna let my kids think that it's okay to accept anything from strangers, or that it's okay to be pressured into sharing. My boyfriend doesn't agree and thinks the kid trusted us because we had kids ourselves, and he now thinks that I was just being selfish. So I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I want to say first and foremost that your boyfriend's an idiot because no, you are not the jerk. The original poster is 100% correct. It is a terrible idea to give out food to some kid that you don't even know, bro. Like, what's going on right now? Like, that's a one-way trip to somebody having an allergic reaction and you getting in trouble. Especially like any kind of like peanuts or chestnuts or anything like that. Like, that kid will take one bite and maybe realize, oh wait, I'm not supposed to have this. But it will be way too late when that happens and it'll be your fault. Like, my God, it's simply not worth the risk. Like, your boyfriend is completely wrong. wrong. So no, you're not the jerk because if anything, you're like the only person who had any sense about this situation in the slightest. Am I overreacting for being upset at my boyfriend after he made me feel terrible in a way that really opened my eyes to the future of our relationship? Because right now I feel terrible and I feel completely at a loss, and I seriously now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm currently staying at my boyfriend's house, who lives about 3 hours away from me, and last night I got into an argument with him because we were ordering pizza and we had agreed on everything. But then he said he wanted to get spicy honey drizzled on top of it. And since it's not the sort of thing that I can just pick off the pizza itself, I said I wasn't sure if I would like that and to see if we could just get it on the side. Well, it wasn't an option. So he said, oh well, I guess I'm doing it anyways. And I again said that I didn't think I would like that. But then he said, well, you could just buy your own pizza then. Now, I've got to be honest. At this moment, my whole future with him flashed before my eyes. And that comment made me afraid for what our future would look like, where I literally have no say because he's paying for everything. Now, mind you, we had just went to the movies earlier where I bought all the food and snacks for us, and I bought it for his son as well. So that comment really upset me because even if I'm paying, I would never intentionally get something for us that he wouldn't like and then tell him that I'm paying so I don't care what he wants. So anyways, he then cancels the order and says never mind and then decides not to get food at all. I had then gotten up and I said, I just can't believe that you would say that to me. And his response was to say, well, you need to believe it. We then proceeded to argue because that comment bothered me even more. And he was saying that his compromise was not getting meat on the pizza. For reference, I have not eaten meat in like 9 years, and he also never gets meat on his pizza anyways. I then tried explaining that it wasn't the same thing, and he just couldn't understand why I was upset about the whole situation. I then asked him if he could please see where I was coming from, but instead he just kept flipping it onto me. So finally, I got frustrated and I raised my voice. I said to him, I just want you to apologize to me. But he responded by saying, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But then I responded back by saying, see, you never take accountability. All you do is flip things onto me for being upset with you. He then got up and walked into his gaming room and closed the door. He then proceeded to game for the next 3 hours while I cried in my car because I literally didn't know where else to go. I then went inside and I laid down, and then he quietly got into bed and we just went to sleep. Fast forward to this morning and he wakes me up and he continues gaming. And it's been over 2 hours now and I have no idea what to do. And honestly, at this point, I'm kind of debating if I should just leave because I feel weird just sitting here at his house and we're not even speaking. Plus, on top of that, he's acting like he's the one mad at me. So what usually happens is that I end up apologizing just to break the tension, and then he just never owns up or apologizes for his part. He expects me to apologize for my reaction to something that he did, and then it just makes me feel terrible all over again. At this point, I just feel drained and defeated right now, and right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your boyfriend is a complete piece of garbage. Seriously, think about it for a second. This guy's trying to act like you did something wrong when all you wanted was to not put that hot crap on top of the pizza. And he was the one to escalate this and make this into a bigger deal. Like, what a crappy boyfriend, seriously. Like, if you argue to a point where you're like, man, I'm gonna sit in my car and just cry because I have no idea where else I'm gonna go. Like, for me, if a relationship gets to that point, I'm not gonna say you can't be saved, but holy crap, that's a giant red flag. Because you're right, and you are so smart to see this. This really is a glimpse into the rest of your future. And just to give more detail, the original poster said that their plan was that they would be a stay-at-home mom, essentially stating that you would make no money and you would be completely reliant on this guy for any kind of income. And don't get me wrong, under the right circumstances that can work, and it really can be a happy situation, but good lord, this guy sounds like he would be a nightmare from day one. So no, you're not overreacting for being upset. I think your boyfriend is incredibly immature, and the fact that he's giving you the cold shoulder for something he did is just crazy in my opinion. But also, it kind of seems like this guy would absolutely be a nightmare to live with and to be in a relationship with. So do with that whatever you like, but I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be finding a way out of this. Because in my opinion, and I can only speak for myself, I don't think it's healthy the way he resolves conflicts, because in the end, it kind of falls on your shoulders to figure it all out. And that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable and very inappropriate. My entitled toxic roommate quite literally takes advantage of my time and money just so she can have a place to live and have free food on a daily basis. But after I made the simple request of having her split the cost of dinner, which was only $6 by the way, she freaked out on me and moved out right then and there, putting me in a situation that was really crazy and marking this as something that I will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so in my freshman year of college, I became really close with this girl who I will call Avery for the sake of the story. She and I were the same age, we had had the same major and we had almost everything in common. Well, we immediately became the best of friends, and that quickly became extremely toxic for many reasons. We had the same opinions on almost everything, but the things that we disagreed on, they became huge deals even if they weren't. She was one of those people who, if she didn't like someone, you weren't allowed to like that person either. If she thought that a song was great, you also had to think that song was great too. If I expressed anything that differed from her in any way, a big blowout would always ensue. But also, I had never felt closer to someone. Literally, I never met someone who was so like me in so many ways, aside from what seemed to me to be like jealousy or something like that. Like that might be what's going on, but honestly, I don't really know. Anyways, about 3/4 of the way through my freshman year, she has this big blowout with me because she finds out I like a certain show on Netflix. She thinks that show is awful because it has no characters who are people of color, but I tell her no, it actually does have quite a few characters that fit that description. But once I said that, apparently that was the last straw for her, because she literally cut me off for this comment, and after that, we didn't talk for nearly 7 months. Fast forward to November of the following year, and I randomly get a long direct message from Avery saying how sorry she is and how much she misses me, how she wishes that we can make it right. And you know what? I'm immediately accepting, because honestly, I'm a forgiving person, probably to a fault. And yeah, I think it's a trauma response. We then meet up a week later, we get matching tattoos, and instantly we're hanging out every day, all day, like nothing ever happened. In fact, she's even more close and supportive and less argumentative than before, and everything's great. But suddenly her car breaks down. She also just got fired from her job the week before, and she lives in the middle of nowhere with her awful grandmother. And for reference, I live 2 hours away in the city. I then tell her, okay, come live with me until you can get back on your feet. I mean, I know what it's like to have nothing going on for you in a small town with no way of getting out. So she moves in with me with no job, no savings, and no car. Now at this point, she's been in my place for a week, job hunting online, when all of a sudden she has a medical emergency. Usually I wouldn't downplay something like that, but she really never had any paperwork or evidence of what she claimed to be dealing with, and it really seemed like her symptoms would come and go whenever it was most convenient for her, which means that she isn't going to be able to work for at least a few weeks. So I'm paying for everything. I never asked her for rent money because it was never meant to be a permanent thing, and I'm just buying her food, taking her to appointments, paying her phone bill, etc. And I do this for 2 months. But you know what? Finally, I said enough is enough. I then got her an interview at my retail job and she got hired. Then she missed the first week and a half of work for another medical emergency, and I had to cover all of her shifts. And at this point, I was getting really annoyed. After a couple of months of working there, she's literally calling out at least once a week and making me look terrible because I recommended her. Well, she gets off a few hours before me one night, and I just ask her if she can please pick stuff up for dinner, to which she goes ahead and does just that. Well, when I get home, she immediately hits me with, "You need to send me $12 for groceries." I then look at the receipt sitting inside the bag, and the total for the grocery haul was like $12 and some change. Mind you, this is not a lot of money. I could easily send it, but I've also been paying for everything for this girl for almost 5 months at this point. And even though she's had a job for months, I'm still paying her way for everything. I even paid the full adoption fee for the cat that we adopted together. And please remember this part because trust me, it's gonna be important later on. I've also given her a place to live, a job, food. I've gotten her a cat. I've become her friend. I've given her morning coffees that I couldn't even afford. And now after all that, she's gonna ask me to cover the entire $12 dinner? Like, girl, I was just completely over it. I told her I would send her $6 because that was half, and that she was also eating the food too. But when I said that, she began to moan and groan about how she was awful and absolutely ridiculous for expecting to get reimbursed, how she would never ask for anything ever again, and she's just the worst friend ever. And of course, she said this all in a sarcastic, feel bad for me tone of voice. But you know what? I stood there and I said, no, I don't think you understand. You are a leech. Well, when I said that, she immediately got up and tried to fight me. Luckily, I shoved her off and I got up to my room and I locked the door. I then listened as she packed all of her stuff and left, and she called a friend to come and get her because, again, she had no car. When I went downstairs after she had left, I discovered that the cat that I had paid to adopt was gone. She literally stole my cat. I don't care that she's the one that found the cat. I paid for her and she's my baby. I've still never seen my poor kitty to this day, and it's been almost 5 years later. Well, it turns out that she ended up going to live with a friend who came to pick her up, who also lived with her boyfriend of nearly 3 years at the time. But within a month, that friend was homeless and Avery was still living in that apartment, dating the friend's boyfriend. They ended up getting engaged and moving to Florida before breaking it off from what I hear. And honestly, it's one of those situations where I can confidently say good riddance, because this lady was nothing but trouble. Holy crap, this is one of those people that will use you until there is nothing left and then lose their mind the second you try to reciprocate that, even if it is just $6. Like, holy crap, this is not okay. I think this is like a solid lesson in not people pleasing and choosing to put your foot down and be like, no, you are not going to treat me like that. You're not moving in with me. And yes, you absolutely are going to start paying rent and pay for your own stuff. Because if you don't and you meet the wrong person, this can happen. Like, that is crazy in my opinion, and I can't imagine going through that. So to the original poster, I am so glad you got away from Avery. She sounds like a nightmare human being, and honestly, I would hate to be in that situation because she was happy to squeeze you of every penny she could possibly get, and that is absolutely unacceptable and uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworkers are honestly the worst people to work with, as I constantly have to prove when they mess up just to get anything done. And after working as a server at this restaurant for so long, I feel like I'm at my breaking point because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this weekend a big event took place, and this is also when our busiest weekend of the year also takes place. Usually aside from a few hiccups it goes well. However, I got a new coworker. He is cool and he's got some experience until the crap hits the fan. I have been working at this place for longer than any of the staff present yesterday, including the manager themselves. So while I'm not mistake-proof, and I do not claim to be, I know my stuff, I know the menu, and I know our processes. My coworker, let's call him Rush for the sake of the story, likes to teach me how to do my job. Sometimes it's a good pointer, and sometimes he is plain wrong. But regardless, it's annoying in either case. We got 2 new kitchen helpers for this busy weekend, and both of them speak neither German nor English. And you know what? I have empathy for that. They constantly gave out the wrong order numbers, which tanked our tips and our efficiency. I mean, it does happen. But then Rush tells me that it's our responsibility to remember each single order and to be able to sort out the order numbers by myself. For reference, we don't really have sections, so if a dish was ordered 4 times, it's kind of on the kitchen to contribute to make sure that each plate ends up at the right table. So this is what Rush is chiding me about for not remembering, and at this point I get pissed off. What really took the cake though is me having to prove to our new kitchen team whenever they made a mistake, especially when they are slammed. Back then, I would just go to the kitchen and say something like, hey, this certain dish is missing, can you whip that up for me please? Because guess what? I don't care if you or anyone else made a mistake. I just want my customers to get my food. But now I need to find the order that's missing, even if the kitchen lost it. Is the chef convinced that he made it? Well, I need to bill it again, even if it's right there. In fact, I got yelled at by Rush and the entire kitchen staff when I simply asked for a noodle dish to be made because it had been forgotten. That is, until my manager saw me on the verge of losing my cool and just softly went, did you order this wrong? And when I heard this, I exploded. No, I did not. I don't want discussions. I'm not stupid and I know what I'm doing. So please just make the dish. And of course, that's right about when the kitchen found the missing order, because the order itself fell off the printer. Well, that is until Rush saw this order, because he did not believe that the kitchen could have lost it. Everyone then went silent in that moment, and my coworker was trying to cozy up to me the rest of the shift, while I was fuming and just completely embarrassed. In the end, I received the dish with a wrong extra. And once more, as he constantly does, Rush told me to go slow, calm down, everything was alright. But it's like, no, half the tables were missing meals. The tips were really sucking. The kitchen messed up non-stop, and so I straight up told him, no, today we did poorly, and that I'm tired of constant discussions about this, because this really is starting to wear on my patience and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot stand coworkers like Rush. They literally will do anything they possibly can to avoid any kind of backlash or blame for mistakes they make. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they absolutely made a mistake here. They're either giving out the wrong side dishes or they're just not making the dishes entirely. And honestly, that is unacceptable, dude. This place that you're working at kind of sounds like something that's a more higher end experience. And if that really is the case, this isn't some run-of-the-mill chain restaurant, then holy crap, Rush and everybody else in the kitchen needs to be retrained. There's no good excuse for that. And I say that as someone who's worked in some environments that are similar to that, because you literally need to have your stuff together every single day. And on top of that, dude, you have so much time to prep and get things ready that, in my opinion, there's just no good excuse for having mess ups this big. Because I'm right there with the original poster. I totally get it. Small mistakes are not a big deal. That's totally understandable and that's gonna happen for anybody. But to literally have missing orders and having the wrong side dishes, that would drive me crazy because there's no excuse for that. Plus, the kitchen staff doesn't have to deal with the customer. They just throw it out there and say, well, I hope it's right. Meanwhile, the servers are getting chewed out for something they didn't do. Like they're literally just the middleman. So it's like, dude, come on, man. You're cutting into my paycheck by not doing your job correctly. So yeah, to the original poster, I know exactly what you're going through. I've been there to a certain extent, and I know how you feel because I've been a server with crappy kitchen staff too. And all I can say is that I hope it gets better sooner than later because that is a nightmare, especially when your rent and all of your bills depend on people doing their job correctly. My mother-in-law says she only wants to provide childcare for our daughter and not for our son, which has put my wife and I in a weird situation as we now seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mother-in-law initially offered to help with childcare 1 day a week, and I've got to say, she seemed enthusiastic about all of it. However, after our daughter was born, she made it clear that she only wants to care for her. She claims it's fair because she didn't help with our son when he was a baby and my mom did. For a bit of context, we did offer before our son was born and my mother offered, but when we asked, my mother-in-law reacted like a deer in headlights, so we just dropped it. We've had multiple discussions ever since then, explaining that we don't agree with her only wanting one child, and honestly, she just didn't seem to understand. But a week later, she goes back to only wanting to care for our daughter and pretending like we agreed to that. And right now, we're really unsure why this is happening. It might be because we're a lesbian couple and she only wants to bond with a child that she's biologically related to, or maybe she wasn't ready before but is now. Either way, she has said multiple times that she doesn't care to take care of our son, and she's even said this in front of our son. Now, I feel like our weekly childcare arrangement is off because I don't trust her to care for both children equally. My wife feels that we haven't actually explicitly said that she must take care of both children or none of them, and that we should just give her a chance. But right now, this argument is devolving into my wife saying that I'm trying to isolate her from her parents and that I'm treating her like she's a bad person. I just want to protect our kids because right now I just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I've got to be honest, this sounds incredibly weird. Your mother-in-law's being very selfish by being like, oh, I only want to be around your daughter and not your son. Sorry, but that's not what I want to do. Like seriously, the daughter's 3 months old and the son is 3 years old. So it's like, seriously, how on earth are you supposed to be like only taking care of one of them and then just ignore the other one? Because it's going to be irrational for them to be like, yeah, let me just send my kid to 2 different babysitters. Like, what's going on? And also the fact that your wife is trying to be like, oh, you're separating me from my mom. It's like, no, dude, your mom is doing that to us. Like literally, she refuses to even take care of your son, dude. Like, what's happening right now? So no, I don't think you're at fault in this conversation, and I think your wife is kind of being silly in my opinion, because your mother-in-law is the one who's driving a wedge in this entire scenario. And if she would just be reasonable and actually watch your son, then all of this could have been resolved a long time ago. Today, I found posts online stating that my boyfriend was possibly cheating on me, resulting in my boyfriend being very angry with me, as I'm pretty sure that he knows that I know that he is probably cheating on me. And at this point, I honestly just don't know what to do because this entire situation is very messy. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female, and recently I found a post of my boyfriend on a local Are We Dating the Same Guy page that you might find on something like Facebook. For reference, we've been together for 5 years, and there were several comments on there of girls saying they texted him or went out with him, and I couldn't really tell if this had happened recently or if it could have been from like a long time ago. So anonymously, I commented on it, and I was asking if anyone has talked to or hooked up with him recently, and when I did this, a girl responded saying that she did, and asked if I did as well and if I had any tea on him. I probably should have said that I was his girlfriend, but I was so embarrassed that I just simply couldn't. I worried that I wouldn't get any information, so I just said that he told me not to talk or sleep with anyone else and he wouldn't either, but we also never actually hooked up. Well, she responded back claiming that he had said the exact same thing to her. I then asked when they last hooked up and she just never responded back after that. Well, my boyfriend then comes home and is furious. He's slamming doors, giving me dirty looks, but won't say anything to me. Now, I know that he knows I was the one who anonymously posted because I had suspicions that he had been cheating on me and have recently been asking him, but he denied doing so. I then go back to the post and all of her responses are deleted, so I know that she told him, and I'm sure that he told her to delete them, but he's just so pissed at me for it. So seriously, what are my next steps for this? Do I confront him about this, or do I just wait and see if he says anything? We also rent an apartment together and we're on the same lease, so that makes things even more complicated. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think this is like the biggest red flag you could ever experience of like, yeah, this guy's a piece of garbage and you can do way better than this. So I know for a fact if I found his name on some kind of Facebook page where it's like, oh, are we seeing the same guy? That would be more than enough evidence for me to be like, yeah, this is kind of sketchy. And it would really raise my eyebrows because like, why would your name get put on that page if it wasn't true? Random people aren't just thrown on there, dude. And I'm sure this isn't some like bitter ex, like you guys have been together for 5 years. So personally, if this is not a wake up call to be like, oh okay, this might not be right for me, and to start making the steps of like moving out and moving on with your life, then honestly, I don't know what will. Because it's pretty obvious this guy's cheating on you, and I think you might want to do something now instead of waiting later. Am I the jerk for calling the health department on a restaurant I went to after they served me some chicken that was very much undercooked? Because after telling my friends about this, they're saying that I'm a jerk for saying anything to begin with. And at this point, I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so as the title suggests, I was served undercooked chicken at a major chain restaurant. Unfortunately, I didn't realize it until I reached the thick part of the chicken thigh. Upon realizing this, I calmly brought the matter to the attention of the waiter. He looked pretty disgusted and brought the supervisor over. Now, the supervisor was very young, and when I showed this to them, they said that they would ask the chef, as the supervisor didn't know what cooked chicken looked like. The supervisor didn't really come back with an answer from the cook, and they actually said that they could make me another one, but at this point, I had lost my appetite. I didn't end up paying for the undercooked chicken, but I did pay for the rest of the meal. Now, I've got to be honest, I was really put off by the response of the supervisor. Like seriously, not knowing what undercooked chicken looked like, no acknowledgement from the cook indicating how this was a one-time mistake, it got me thinking that this might be a consistent issue. Now, in my local area, Google said that I should contact the health department to file a complaint, so that's exactly what I did. The next day, I got a call from the health inspector to follow up. He went to the restaurant and got the cook that day to make another chicken meal, and the chef undercooked it right in front of the health inspector. And it was just like how I experienced it. The thin part was cooked, but the thick part of the chicken was undercooked. They reviewed the restaurant's procedures for cooking the meal and determined it wasn't being deep fried for long enough. And as a result, they changed the procedure to make sure it didn't happen again. Now, I was happy with the results of the health inspector meeting. This was obviously a continuing problem, but it had been fixed. And then, after talking to the general manager, they indicated that this was a good learning experience for the supervisor and the chef. And you know what? I agreed. And in my eyes, the issue is completely taken care of. Well, after telling this story to some of my friends, they said that I was being a jerk for calling the health department in the first place. So seriously, I really need to know here. Am I the jerk for saying anything to begin with? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. Bro, you are not the jerk here. That is undercooked chicken. I don't know if you know this, but if you undercook chicken and then serve it, there's absolutely a chance you could get someone very sick. We're talking like food poisoning and possibly even worse, like going to the hospital kind of sick. That is not something you want to mess around with, dude. Like that could really hurt somebody. And as far as I know, like chicken is one of those things that you absolutely need to make sure is cooked all the way through, and like you want to make sure it's at the right temperature. It's not like eating a steak or a burger where it's like, okay, it's a little bit rare and that's okay. Like this is a totally different situation that you just don't want to mess with. So no, I would call the health inspector too. Like their response was super weird. They were standoffish. They never gave you a response back. Like it kind of seems like it's one of those scenarios where nobody knew what they were doing and nobody had any idea how they should take accountability for what's going on. So no, your friends are idiots. Ignore them entirely. You are not the jerk for calling the health inspector, because if this happened to you, then you can bet this absolutely happened to other people. And that in and of itself is incredibly unsafe and something that absolutely needs to be reported. Everybody in my life, including strangers, are warning me about my new boyfriend that I've been dating for about a month now. And it's now gotten to the point where my entire family is saying that I need to break up with this guy because they are convinced that he would be really bad for me and that I could do so much better with my life. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have officially been together for almost a month now, and we both really like each other. Everything is going well between us, and he treats me really well and is serious about me. We get along perfectly, and I personally haven't seen any red flag coming from him. I met his family a week ago, and they instantly liked me. It turns out we're distantly related, but he's lived abroad his entire life until recently, so I knew nothing about him, and meeting him was by pure chance and unrelated to family connections. He's the nephew of my uncle, namely my aunt's husband, and a coworker of another aunt. We've recently shared the news with my family too, but both my aunts keep warning me not to date him, saying he has a bad reputation and has a history of lying and womanizing, and they've even begged my mother to do something about this situation because nothing good could ever come out of it. Meanwhile, he thinks he has a good relationship with my aunts and thinks my aunts like him as a person. My mom has asked around about him as well, but nobody has anything good to say about him. And now my family hates him, and they actually want me to break up with him, as the general consensus among people that I know and strangers is that basically he has a bad reputation and he doesn't deserve me. I've tried to have a conversation with him about this, but he denies literally everything. What should I do? Okay, honestly, if someone really has this bad of a reputation and you're hearing about it a month into the relationship, then in my opinion, it might be time to turn around and run away. For reference, the original poster is 28 and their boyfriend is 40 years old. And I'm not saying that makes a difference in the situation, but I will say everybody coming up to you this early in the relationship saying, hey, this is a bad guy, you don't want to date him. Like, that's not just coming out of nowhere, and I think there might be some reason why this is happening. So if I was in your shoes, I would take that as a sign and turn around and probably run away from this relationship. Because if everybody around me is saying this, even strangers I don't even know, then there might be some kind of truth to this that I can either unpack and figure out, or I can listen to my gut and say, okay, I'm gonna move on and find a better boyfriend. My entitled friend literally uses me for money, as she constantly has me pay for everything in her life, while also refusing to pay me back for the things that I buy her. But after dealing with this for so long, I decided to finally put my foot down, demanding that she finally pay me back, resulting in one of the most delusional situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. So I just had to cut off an old friend that I had just rekindled with after I had my son. She has 2 boys, her and her husband are separated, but they're still married legally and they live together. And recently, we went to a fair where she expected me to pay for everything. In fact, every single time we've ever went anywhere, I would always be paying. The last time we went out, I suggested Applebee's because it's cheaper and I don't mind paying usually. But when I said this, she actually said she was expecting something more fancy, as if it was a date of some kind. Mind you, I'm also happily married, but I just laughed it off and we went to Applebee's anyways. Well, recently we go to the fairground with our kids for a play date where never once did I say I was paying because I'm not a millionaire and I can't afford to take a family of 3 plus me and my son, so really a family of 5, all to the fair on my own dime. We get there and I'm buying the pass for my son and myself, and my friend said to me, oh, I left my wallet in the car. So I just say to her, okay, don't worry about it. I'll just go ahead and pay for it and then you can Venmo me the money later on. So I pay for the passes, we go on rides, and we're having fun. And eventually it's time to eat. We get food at the fair, which was extremely expensive, and her kids are just yelling out what they want and she has absolutely no control of them. So I hurry to order everything, and it's here that this girl literally had the nerve to add more food to the order, which brought my total to somewhere around $110. After we eat, it's getting really hot and our kids are really tired. So it's here that I ask her straight up, hey, before we leave, can you please send me the money via Venmo? She then looks at me dead in the eyes and said, oh, I have no money. She then basically said that she's broke and that her husband cut her off. But I then asked her, okay, if you knew that, then why did you suggest the fare and why did you say that you would Venmo me the money? She then said to me, you wouldn't understand. You and your husband both have really good paying jobs. I'm a stay-at-home mom. It's harder. And when she said this, I literally didn't know what to say. So I just said to her, okay, and then I put my son in the stroller and I got up to leave, with my friend following me in tow with her kids. As we were leaving, she has the nerve to say how she wishes they could go into this escape room, not included in the passes that I bought everybody, and then keeps looking at me with those begging eyes. Honestly, it made me feel disgust, so I said no. We need to go back because it's getting late and my kids need to nap. We both say bye, and then the same day, she's calling and texting asking for the next hangout and inviting herself to my house, saying that she can come right now with her boys, but I just keep saying I'll get back to her. It's now been 4 days and she calls and texts me every day, which I just don't respond to. After I told my husband about everything, he basically told me to cut her off. He said this is trifling and she's just completely taking advantage of me. So seriously, has anyone else ever experienced something like this before? Because right now I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so I texted her and I said exactly how I feel and that she needs to pay me back. But when I said this, she got mad at me and I ended up blocking her and not responding to her last text message. Now here's basically what I said. I said to her, hey, I know you've been texting and calling to hang out and schedule, but honestly, I'm not really interested unless you can pay me back for the other day. I spent a lot of money and you lied to me and told me that you would Venmo me. I feel like you took advantage of me because we were in front of the kids when I asked you to pay me back. I would never do that to you. You're just assuming that we're well off because we both work, when in reality, it's just because we budget. If you had just been straightforward that you didn't have money, I would have brought snacks and we could have gone to the free splash pad or the park or literally anything for free. After I said this, she sent me back the following. Well, what do you expect from me? I'm depressed and I'm going through a divorce and I have no money. I tell you the truth and then you use it against me? You're just holding everything you paid for over my head when I never asked you to do that. I then responded back by saying you literally literally did ask me to do that. You said that you were gonna Venmo me and literally lied to my face, and then made sure to wait until after I paid for everything. I get that you're depressed and I'm sorry for what you're going through, but that has no correlation to you lying and waiting until after I paid to guilt trip me. She then responded to me by saying, I have enough going on right now. I really don't need to be dealing with this, honestly. But I said to her, okay, so are you gonna pay me back or not? She then said back to me, no, you don't need me to pay you back. You're doing just fine. You're just a greedy person. You literally have your husband paying for everything. You have no idea what it's like to struggle, and I'm struggling so bad right now. We are staying together for the kids, but he doesn't help me with anything, and I never have money. I then called her out by saying, you literally showed up with Starbucks though. To which she said, you're gonna be like that and watch all my expenses? Why are you even texting me? I don't want to be friends with someone that's going to hold everything over my head. You're just a greedy person. You think you're better than me and you're not. You always look down on people. I never should have told you crap about my marriage because you clearly just don't care. Well, I never responded to her last text message and I ended up just blocking her because this entire situation is really ridiculous. Holy crap, this lady really is crazy because everything she said about you quite literally has everything to do with her. She's the one that's greedy. She's the one who's acting crazy and being like, oh wow, are you watching all my expenses? Like, no, that's what she's doing to the original poster. And she's literally trying to twist reality in a way where it's like, what are you talking about? I'm having such a hard time right now. You don't know how hard it is. You guys are well off. And it's like, dude, I literally can't stand people like this. They'll ask you for money. They'll be like, oh, please pay for this. I don't have any money. And even when they agree to pay you back, they'll somehow twist this against you and be like, oh, I shouldn't have to pay. I'm a single mother, or whatever excuse they might have. And look, I'm not doubting that being a single mom is hard, but what I am doubting is her sense of like integrity or literally anything good in her life. Because if you say to someone's face, hey, I'm gonna pay you back, you either do it right then and there, or you tell them the truth and be like, actually, I can't pay you back for this, so let's go do something else. Like, this lady literally took advantage of the original poster for the sole purpose that, yeah, you would get into the fair for free. And honestly, people like this run out of friends and go through a lot of friends very quickly because they're exposed almost immediately as someone who uses friends and doesn't actually like contribute to the friendship itself. So to the original poster, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. This is so annoying, and I hate the fact that people like this actually exist. Because if she was just honest from the beginning and said, hey, I can't afford this, then you guys could have done anything else and still had a good time, and possibly even maintained your friendship in the process. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My wife is very suspicious of my work relationship, despite the fact that there's literally nothing going on and I'm definitely not cheating on her. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, we've been married for over 17 years and married for 14. We've been through a few emotional roller coasters, but this year just feels really different. My wife is very suspicious of my relationship with a work colleague who I will call Barbara for the sake of the story. We sit across from each other and sometimes have lunch together in the work kitchen. Naturally, we chat about family stuff. For example, our kids are at similar ages and stuff like that. I'm in the office about 3 days per week, and maybe 2 of those overlap with Barbara depending on travel. Meanwhile, my wife works from home full time. I was about to go on holiday earlier this year, and on the last day at work, Barbara said to take some pictures of our meals. I don't know why, but some people like that kind of thing. Well, the holiday's okay, but the food wasn't great until the 3rd night, where we actually found somewhere really nice. And I thought to myself, oh, I'll take a picture for Barbara. And honestly, this went down incredibly badly with my wife, and the rest of the holiday was full of really long silences. But I simply couldn't understand what the issue was. She's a friend and a colleague, nothing more. But my wife was really upset that I'd been messaging the girl from work. The main question that kept coming up was why her and not a male colleague? We then had quite a long heart-to-heart, and I agreed to not share any family information with Barbara ever again. Now, ever since then, it's been fairly good at home, and I feel like we really grew together. But last week, working from home, I needed to message Barbara about some work stuff. My wife was stood next to me when Barbara's name popped up on Teams, and she started getting anxious, asking if that's who all the team notifications were from. I explained why I was messaging, but she just didn't buy it. She then said, okay, well, if I scroll up, is it all just gonna be work stuff? Well, when she said that, I just let her do it, and it's here that she found a message that said, hope you're having a good day. And when she saw that, she stormed out, and we've barely spoken ever since then. I do genuinely love her completely, and I have no interest in anybody else, but I feel torn between thinking, okay, how could she think that I'd ever be dishonest with her? And at the same time, if that's what she's thinking, then she's feeling awful. I honestly don't know what to do to fix it. We're not great at communicating when there's friction. Emotion gets in the way too easily, and I'm thinking counseling would give neutral ground to open up, because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think your wife is going way too overboard. Like, this genuinely doesn't seem like anyone you're trying to like get with or anything like that, and it honestly just seems like a work colleague, nothing more. There's no flirty messages, there's no like scandalous photos or anything like that. The worst thing you did is take a picture and send it to a friend from work. So the fact that your wife is freaking out about this is really weird and uncalled for. Like, she even freaked out when she saw a message that said, "Oh, I hope you're having a good day." Like, dude, come on, there's nothing going on here. This just seems like one of those situations where she's freaking out over nothing, and it's like, man, nothing I say is ever gonna make this better. So yeah, I hope you guys figure this out, and hopefully you're able to figure some kind of like communication path forward, because in my opinion, I think your wife is being completely overreactive here, and that is not fair. Today, I am still angry and furious about how my friends behaved in my home, because after I spent over $1,000 flying them out just so we could spend time together for my husband's birthday, they completely took advantage of my time and my money, putting me in a situation where honestly, I don't even know what to say to them. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my spouse recently had a birthday, and I decided it would be nice to fly a couple of friends and their 2 children to visit. They could not have afforded it, so I thought it would also be fun for them. Plus, we've also been talking about having our children meet as well. For reference, they have a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we have an 8-month-old. And admittedly, I was annoyed as soon as I brought up the topic. The woman, let's call her Alice for the sake of the story, made demands about seat preferences and insisted on a seat for her 1-year-old child. And hey, I get it. I always buy a seat for my baby, but I'm also not asking other people to pay for it. Anyways, the time comes and they're staying in our guest bedroom, and they make an enormous mess in our living room and kitchen almost immediately. They leave garbage and their stuff pretty much everywhere. Their kids are dumping food all over the place, and the older one is a nightmare and is constantly demanding I push in her chair or get her ice when it melts in her glass, or find her a snack or just read her a book. And literally, the parents said nothing about any of this, and the younger one just sits there and screams. They're both very noisy, and the parents didn't do anything, even when we would tell them we're putting our baby down for a nap. And eventually, we had to tell Alice that she needs to keep the baby in the guest room while our baby naps. They expected us to pay for takeout for every meal, but also made demands about what we could order. No fast food because they eat that all the time. And I don't really eat much fast food, but I would have preferred to buy that for them instead of paying like $200 to feed them every single time they were hungry. And trust me, I know I really should have put my foot down here. The worst part was that on the day of my husband's birthday, you know, the reason they were here, they said they forgot it was that weekend. They didn't even have a gift for him. I usually wouldn't care, but I had paid over $1,000 for them to fly out. I hosted them and I paid for everything while they were here. What was supposed to be something fun for my husband turned into a free vacation for them and a nightmare weekend for us. Finally, when they left, we found that their older kid had hid candy wrappers under her bed. There was chocolate smeared all over the sheets of both beds. There was paper everywhere, and they moved things around and didn't put them back. We also found 2 dirty pull-ups that the 6-year-old literally hid around the house. I was so angry that I texted about the sheets, and Alice just said to me, "Oh, I'm sorry." So seriously, if anything, what do I say to these people? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Okay, honestly, I think you're well within your right to say that this was really an unpleasant experience and you don't appreciate the way you were treated. Because holy crap, think about it for a second. You spent over $1,000 for these people to come out, only for them to then be like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize this is why we were flying out. Sorry about that, we forgot your husband had a birthday." Like, dude, what are you talking about right now? That is so toxic, it's not even funny. But for me, like, the biggest thing that came out of this is that these people showed their true colors. They showed that, yeah, when you give them a chance to come and like spend time with you guys, they're absolutely going to take advantage of it and treat you and your home like crap, and that is so unfair, because this really was supposed to be a fun weekend, but instead they absolutely ruined it. My husband's entitled crazy ex is literally making his life miserable, as she is constantly making false claims at his work just to try and get him fired. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I've been with my husband for almost 6 years now, and recently we got married. His ex had told him that she had a boyfriend and wanted a divorce, and shortly after he met me and she just went completely crazy. She started threatening him with restraining orders because she claimed that he was mistreating her. She did everything to make him miserable, and yet he still didn't do anything wrong. Now, he's been working in the local grocery store around a year now, and he's the lead in the department that he works in. Recently, he's seen his ex, but doesn't really interact with her, except asking if she needs any help, which he's required to do, and usually she just ignores him. Well, twice in the past month, she's made complaints to his boss. The first one was when they had a product on sale and it was gone, and she apparently complained that he wouldn't go in the back and get her more, even though there was literally none others in the back. The second instance was the same thing. She grabbed the last of a product on sale and then asked him if there was more, and he just told her, sorry, that's the last one that you grabbed. And she then asked again, is there more in the back? And he said no. Well, as you can imagine, she complained to his boss that he wouldn't get her any from the back. So finally, my husband's boss says, well, if my lead says there's no more in the back, then there's nothing else back there. My boss also knows exactly who this lady is, as my husband has definitely explained exactly what's going on to this guy. He's not at risk of losing his job. He's been polite and professional this whole time, but she is making him miserable every time she interacts with him. It's been almost 6 years now, and she simply won't stop, despite the fact that she's still with her affair partner. Okay, honestly, it kind of seems like what she's doing right now might be illegal. Like, from the sounds of it, it seems like she's trying to get him in trouble and get him fired, all under false pretenses while also being his ex-wife. Like, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea what I'm talking about, but if I had an ex-girlfriend who was acting like this, and they're like, oh yeah, you are never helping me, I'm gonna keep complaining to your boss. Like, at that point, I would probably be like, okay, I need like a restraining order or something. This is crazy. Because if anyone's mistreating anyone here, it is definitely the ex, dude. Like, they're being so weird right now. So hopefully this gets worked out in some way. This is such a weird grudge to have, especially when they were the one cheating. Like, what's going on right now? Plus, on top of that, it's been 6 years, bro. Like, just let it go and move on. No one's impressed by the way you're acting, and honestly, it's just really embarrassing. Am I the jerk for invoicing my friend group each $23 after they pushed me to host the playoff watch party for a game we wanted to watch, only to then act like I was responsible for paying for everything, despite the fact that this is not something we had all agreed upon? Here's what happened. I'm a 31-year-old male and I have a tiny apartment, but I also have the biggest TV in our friend group and a decent couch. A week before the game, the group chat basically votes that the party's at my place because they think the sound is crazy good at my place and they just want it to happen there. I say to them, okay, cool, but I can't afford to feed 9 people on my own right now. I then suggest a potluck or that we split the basics. 2 people say that they'll bring wines and brownies, and 1 person says that he'll do chips, but the day of comes around and only the chips guy shows up. I then end up having to buy 3 pizzas, a veggie tray, I get some ice and 2 12-packs, and I got some seltzers because I panic that it'll be weird with nothing. The receipt total is also over $200, and my place got wrecked. Nothing broken, just sticky glasses and salsa in the rug. And in the end, everybody left fast because the next day was Monday. The next morning, the same chat is sharing memes about the game, and I say to them, hey, can we split the cost? I mean, it's only $23 each. I'll go ahead and send a breakdown. Well, immediately I get one guy saying, dude, it's tacky to charge for hospitality. You offered to host. But it's like, dude, I didn't offer anything. They literally picked me out of the group. And I said we could split it or have a potluck like 3 times. One guy sends me money via Venmo, but the rest starts moving goalposts, saying stuff like, oh, we barely drank anything, or that they brought the vibes to the party, and that I could deduct pizza because I had 2 slices myself. I then say to him, it's not okay not to pay. I just won't host the next time because I'm not a bank. And now I'm being petty and keeping score. I do like having people over, but I also like rent being paid on time. So am I the jerk for sending the invoice and saying no more hosting if we don't split? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I would never host these people ever again, and I probably would start looking for like different friends because this is crazy. First of all, the guy who said, oh yeah, I brought the vibes to the party, like that guy's absolutely gonna pay the next time. I don't care what happens. Even if you gotta take his credit card, like dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's like, yeah, I brought the vibes, don't worry about it, bro. Take that out of my cut. It's like, oh, okay, let me look on the receipt. I don't see vibes listed anywhere. Like, what are we talking about? The fact that your friends decided to volunteer your house and be like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay for everything, that in my opinion is super toxic and just really weird. There's no reason to act that way, dude. That is so toxic. Like, the only silver lining is that one person did pay you back, but even then, it's like, dude, this is not enough. I need more people to pitch in. This is not fair for me. So no, you're not the jerk for invoicing these people or for being pissed off, because you can bet this would be the last time I would ever host anything like that, and I would probably try to find new friends because these people do not sound like winners, and I don't blame you for getting pissed off. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that I won't co-sign for her new lease after she and her boyfriend literally trashed my apartment? Because right now I'm getting guilt-tripped hard from my family just to like co-sign her lease, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I rent a 2-bedroom apartment in a not fancy but okay part of town. My little sister is 23 years old and still trying to figure out life, and through this process I've been helping her out a lot. Last year I let her stay with me for 3 months for free when she lost her job, and I even put her on my car insurance insurance because it was cheaper. I also covered her phone bill a few times, so I'm not anti-helping. 2 weeks ago, she asked if her boyfriend could hang out at my place while I was on a late shift because she said that his roommates are annoying. I then told her that was fine, but only in the living room. I didn't want any parties and I didn't want any other friends. Well, I came home at about 11 o'clock p.m. and my place was a mess. There were 4 people, 3 of them I didn't know, empty bottles all over the place, someone smoked on the balcony, there was pizza grease on my couch and then some. And on top of that, my sister was drunk, with her boyfriend using my PC for games. They broke a candle holder and tried to hide it, and honestly, I was furious and I told everybody to get out right now. The next day, I told her that she can't stay with me for a while and that was disrespectful. Now, she wants to move into her own apartment and she needs a co-signer because she works part-time and has no credit. She then asked me for help, but I said no. When I said no, she started crying and said I was punishing her for one mistake and that family is supposed to help out. But I told her co-signing is not buying you lunch. If she misses rent, then they're gonna come for me. And I already saw how she treats stuff that doesn't belong to her. She then went to our mom and now mom is texting me that I'm gatekeeping housing for my own sister and that I make more money, so apparently I can absorb it if something happens. I really do love her, but I just don't trust her boyfriend. I don't trust her friends, and I don't want a surprise $1,000 in rent on top of my own just because she wanted to go to Coachella. So am I the jerk for saying no to this? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Dude, I can't stand the way your family's acting. No, of course you're not the jerk. If your mom really feels that strongly about this, then guess what? She can step up and co-sign this situation. Like, what's going on right now? Why is it that you're somehow responsible for your sister's housing situation? Because honestly, you've got it right, dude. She trashed your apartment. She disobeyed every single rule that you set up before you left, and then is actually trying to act like, oh yeah, you're punishing me for one mistake. And it's like, no, dude, if you dropped something and broke it, that would be a mistake. What she did was a series of decisions that she refuses to be accountable for. So no, you're not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. My entitled sister-in-law changed completely right after moving in with us, as she is literally a different person anytime my brother walks out of the room, as she turns into this crazy narcissist who is quite literally turning my brother against the rest of the family. And at this point, I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my family is pretty small. It's just me, my sister, my brother, and our mom. Our dad passed away when I was 9 years old, and we have no real connection with extended family since we live in another country. So it's been the 4 of us for a long time. We're very close and have always had each other's backs. A few years ago, my brother got married, and at first, everything was great. We all genuinely liked his wife and welcomed her into our tight little circle, and it felt like we gained a big sister, and for the first year, things were really peaceful. We lived in 2 separate apartments that were connected by a door, and it gave us all enough space to coexist comfortably. But after my nephew was born, we decided to move into a bigger house, with one that had a shared living space but private rooms and bathrooms, and we all agreed that it would just be for 1 year. Well, that is until everything started falling apart. At first, my sister-in-law seemed visibly unhappy about the move, but we thought that she would adjust eventually. Instead, she started acting more and more hostile. The snide comments began under the guise of jokes, but they were always directed at me, my sister, or maybe my mom. We tried to play along at first or respond with light comments to let her know they weren't funny, but they honestly just kept getting worse. Well, one day, she made a passive-aggressive remark to my sister that was basically calling her a woman of the night, if you know what I mean. And it was not in those exact words, but there was no other way to interpret it, and that was the moment that things shifted. And it wasn't just the comments. She started yelling at my mom during disagreements, which is something none of us ever expected. My mom is a strong, firm woman, not someone who gets walked over very easily, so for someone to speak to her like that was just beyond shocking. We've tried talking to my sister-in-law privately and calmly so many times, but every time she deflects, gets defensive, or turns it around and claims that we're ganging up on her. She says that she feels alone and threatened by our bond as a family, and that we misunderstand her. When my brother's present, she often downplays her behavior or apologizes. But the moment he's gone, it all starts again. What hurts the most is that my brother seems to buy into her version of things. He keeps telling us, oh, she didn't mean it, or he'll say something like, you're just taking it too seriously. And I get that he's stuck in the middle, especially with a toddler in the mix, but it feels like our concerns are brushed off as silly drama. And just to be clear, there have been a lot of smaller and bigger incidents over the last couple of years that are just way too many to list here. If I sat down and wrote them all out, it would take hours. But each one chipped away at the peace and respect that we once had in the house. I've tried to let things go so many times just to keep the peace. But today, something happened that was just my breaking point, I guess. For a bit of context, it was her week to clean the kitchen. Before dinner, it was still messy, so we asked her if she could tidy up the counter so that we could cook. Well, she flatly said that she only cleans once before bed. When we insisted that it needed to be cleaned now, she got defensive and said, "Oh, it's just a couple of pans. Couldn't you have cleaned them yourself?" Which, by the way, for reference, it absolutely was not just a couple of pans. When my mom reminded her that it was her turn that week, she got nasty, started mocking us by saying we only started caring about cleanliness during her week, and also used very rude and dismissive words. You know, the kind that no one should ever say to their mother-in-law. Now, that argument ended with everybody walking away to their rooms. My brother's out of town on a business trip until Friday, and I don't know how we're going to get through the rest of the week. I'm exhausted, I'm sick of walking on eggshells, I'm tired of her narcissistic behavior, and how she manipulates my brother into thinking that we're exaggerating and that we're the bad guys. So honestly, can we ever go back to the peace we had before? Like, is there even a chance of that happening? And what made her suddenly change like this? Is there anything left that we could possibly try? I don't know how much longer I can live like this. What should I do? Okay, I want to give some context here because this really is what I think. I don't think she changed suddenly. In my opinion, I think she's always been like this and now you're suddenly seeing it. Like before, you had a door that pretty much separated the two apartments and that really was all you needed so that you could coexist. But now that she's under the same roof as you guys, the real monster's coming out, which in my opinion was always there, but you never saw the real version of it. Which leads me to my next point, which everybody in the comment section is kind of mentioning, where I'm right there with them. Agreeing to have a shared household was a bad idea. Even under the best of circumstances, that would have been a nightmare in my opinion. So truly, I don't think anything changed. I think your sister-in-law was always like this, and I think the only option of solving this is getting them either out of the house or you guys moving out. Because I know for a fact if I was in that situation, I would be miserable, as I literally cannot stand people that act like this and then try to get away with it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend seems to think that I overstepped by getting a Nintendo Switch 2 without talking to him first about it, as he says that this is an immature thing to do and that I'm just going to be wasting my time on this. And right now, I'm honestly confused and I'm not sure if he's overreacting or not, because the way he's acting is making me feel really bad. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I decided to treat myself and finally order a Nintendo Switch 2 online last week. I've been wanting one since it came out, but with the rising cost of living, it's been hard to justify the expense, and the stock has been impossible to find. After budgeting carefully and making sure all my bills were covered, I decided to go for it. I've been saving for months and was honestly so excited when I managed to get one before it sold out again. When I told my boyfriend, he did not seem thrilled at all. He said I should have discussed it with him first and accused me of being irresponsible with money. To clarify, I didn't touch any shared finances or skip out on responsibilities. This was 100% my own money and everything else is in order. He's acting like it's a huge deal, saying I'll spend too much time on it and it's immature for an adult. I know gaming isn't something a lot of women are into, but it's just something that I genuinely enjoy. I get that things are tight right now and maybe he's feeling stressed about money too, but I made sure that everything important was covered before buying it. It feels like he's upset that I made a decision for myself without asking first. So honestly, am I missing something here or is he overreacting? I really don't want this to turn into a bigger issue, but I also feel like I didn't do anything wrong. What should I do? Okay, this is so weird in my opinion because why does your boyfriend care what you do with your money? You literally bought this for yourself, you didn't do anything wrong with the finances you both share, and you budgeted everything correctly, so it's okay, this is extra money that I can spend on myself. So yeah, in my opinion, it seems like your boyfriend is absolutely overreacting. You didn't do anything wrong. This guy sounds super controlling for being you didn't ask me first if you're gonna be getting this. And by the way, what adult man nowadays is gonna be oh, gaming's immature for an adult. You can't be an adult and play games. What are you doing? It's are you kidding me right now? Playing games is a fun pastime. It's a fun hobby. God forbid your girlfriend would want to I don't know, jump on the Nintendo Switch 2 and have some fun for a few hours. Because at the end of the day, like I said, this is your money and you could do whatever you want with it. And the way he's trying to control it, in my opinion, is kind of weird. My entitled cousin was constantly giving me problems all throughout medical school, as her entitlement truly drove a wedge between us in a way that I will never get over. Here's what happened. For a bit of backstory, my cousin and I were in the same class and dorm in medical school. She and her parents constantly tried to convey to the rest of the extended family that she was doing much better than me at school, even though I was in the top 2% in the university, whereas she was ranked somewhere at the middle, which really doesn't even matter that much to me to begin with. There were a lot of other things that they tried to misrepresent in her favor, but this is probably the most objective one, just so you can have an idea of what was really going on. My parents, on the other hand, always kept telling me not to even mention about my good grades in family gatherings, so as not to ruffle any feathers. Now, this happened during the 4th or 5th semester. I am by nature a planner and I have a visual learning pattern, and I'd rather put in the hard work up front in small amounts than stress on the exam day. Hence why I took notes, I was very visual, I was diagrammatic, and I had a system so that I can revise the whole syllabus within an hour by exam time without leaving any important topics out. I also had a knack for leading the conversation by introducing words which led the examiner to ask certain questions that I really wanted, and I've got to be honest, it really served me well. So for this subject's practical part, where we were given slides of different tissues to identify and then quizzed on it, I had prepared my notes with probable questions that could be asked, along with my answers and where each answer could lead. By the end of the semester, I had the whole booklet which encompassed all topics, and I was really proud of it. But I didn't know how well my system worked until exam day came around, where just as predicted, I could just rattle off all the answers in a normal conversation. I knew that I was going to score well, but I was certain when other seniors present during the quizzes told me that the examiner complimented the depth of my understanding of the subject, which ironically, I did this whole exercise because I was not confident on the subject at all. Well, I saw my cousin who in 2 days was going to be doing the exact same thing, so I offered her my notes, and I showed her how to use them. She then kind of grudgingly took them and somewhat expressed, "Okay, I will take them off your hands," as if she was doing me a favor. And you know what? I instantly regretted offering it to her at all. In the meantime, another of my friends who had previously seen my notes came to me and asked if I could lend him the notes. So I went to my cousin and I asked for the notes back, and I explained why, and when I did that, she instantly started behaving as if it was her hard work, as if this was all she had, saying that her exam is right around the corner. She then was demanding to know when the other friend will give it back to me after making copies, and then asked me how quick it was going to be, and she just went on and on about this. And it's important to note that she was acting this entitled, while just half an hour before, she had no idea that these notes existed in the first place or that she even wanted them to begin with. For some reason, she felt entitled to something that I had created in my own time, and honestly, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. And yes, I did get the notes back to her, and she said something to the tune of, "Oh, well, what took you so long?" Which for me shows exactly why my cousin is one of the most exhausting people I've ever had to deal with. Oh man, I know people like this in my personal life, and I just cannot stand it. They're never grateful for what you give them, but they're always so selfish about giving it back. It's like they really think the world is supposed to owe them all this stuff all the time. It is so obnoxious. I really cannot stand people who act like this, and it drives me up a wall. So to the original poster, I know exactly what you're going through. This really struck a chord with me, and honestly, it sounds exhausting. And hopefully you don't have to deal with this cousin too much nowadays, because this honestly would be incredibly annoying. My awful former coworker now needs my help in getting a job at my company, but after dealing with them for so long and their terrible behavior, I decided to answer no on whether or not I would recommend them for this job, which marked the moment where I finally got my petty revenge on this jerk. Here's how it happened. A few jobs back, I worked with someone who was a complete jerk. Like, they treated me like crap for absolutely no reason. The company also sucked, but that's another story. And by the way, this is a high-profile organization whose name you would absolutely know. This is the type of person who would also schedule emails to go out in the middle of the night just to make it look like they worked all hours, when they very clearly did not. They refused to help other people, they were definitely not a team player, and all that other crap. Just a really terrible person to work with overall. Anyways, fast forward to now. This person was laid off from their job, but unfortunately, they were still working in the same industry as me. We're also connected on LinkedIn. Now, without asking me, they use my name as a referral to apply for a job at my company. I get the acknowledgement of this through my workday. I read the job description for which they applied and recognize that this person is barely qualified for the job. Could they probably do this job? Well, maybe. Are there people who are likely way more qualified? Yes, absolutely. Also, would I ever inflict this person on my current colleagues? Because if you answered no, then you would be absolutely right. When you get a notification like this through your workday, it asks you a yes or no question as to whether or not you would recommend them for the job. And with that in mind, I decided to click no, and I just went on with my day. Now, is this petty? Yeah, it absolutely is. But the moral of the story story is that you shouldn't be a jerk to your colleagues, because at the end of the day, you never know when you might need them in the future. Okay, I love this because I have some former jerk coworkers who I would absolutely love to do this to. Like the absolute audacity for them to be like, oh yeah, I'll use this person as a reference. They're gonna be fine with it, right? Like, no, wrong. They're absolutely not gonna be fine with it because you are a nightmare to deal with. So good for you. Like, honestly, I'm so glad you were able to get away with that and get away from this person, because working with someone like that will absolutely drain your soul. Today, an entitled jerk cut me off in traffic just to get to the gas station, giving me the perfect opportunity to get some petty revenge that this guy absolutely deserved. Here's how I did it. Okay, a couple of hours ago, I was waiting in some pretty heavy traffic to turn into a gas station. It was one of those enter from either side gas stations you find at the front of the parking lot of like a grocery store, especially here in Texas. Now, I was in the right turning lane and I was waiting to do so. As the truck in front of me pulled forward, a silver SUV shot in front of me, making me slam on my brakes. After forcing their way into my lane, they turned right into the entrance, which was already a bit backed up from people going to the grocery store. I blasted my horn only to see the driver give me one of those "what's up" hand motions from his cab. Traffic ahead of me was moving quickly, so I decided to drive the 100 feet to the next entrance. I then made it to the entrance easily and spun around towards the gas pumps. Creeping forward looking for an empty pump, a motorcycle pulled away and shot out, and I then just quickly pulled into the spot, only to then come face to face with Mr. What's Up himself. We were both in the gas station bay, but I had about a 5-foot advantage. I then gave him the "what's up" signal, and he refused to back up. So I parked the Jeep, I dragged the gas hose to my tank, and I began to fill my tank up. I put the handle on auto, and I walked forward to wash my windshield. And yes, I was absolutely smiling at him the entire time. He knew that he was beat, and backed up to go to a different pump. His girl in the passenger seat wasn't so nice, angrily waving her hands and silently snapping at me, finishing up with a middle finger, to which I responded with a thumbs down. I wanted to slowly pass by them as I left, but he gassed up and left pretty quickly after that because I'm sure he was really embarrassed, and I'm glad I never saw him again. Dude, I love this so much because holy crap, this is true. What is going on right now? Why do people suck in traffic? And it's always the people who are like, oh man, I want to get there so quick. You don't understand. My life is way more important than yours and I got to get there way quicker. And it's always those people that cut you off and then end up in the same spot as you at the same time that look like fools and then try to like duck their head and avoid you. Like I've dealt with them 100 times. I'm sure the original poster and pretty much everybody listening has dealt with that 100 times. So the fact that the original poster in this story actually got some petty revenge, but not only stealing that spot, but also giving them a thumbs down when he got flicked off, which is a maneuver, by the way, that I'm absolutely stealing because that is really hilarious. Am I the jerk for refusing to sleep in a garage at a family memorial, all while my wealthier relatives absolutely have better accommodations? Because right now I'm very pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. A close family member recently passed away and we're gathering for a memorial service. This person was always very kind to me and made me feel valued. They left me some money in their will, which I haven't received yet, but their daughter inherited significantly more, and we're talking like millions of dollars. The family member coordinating lodging sent out arrangements for where everyone's staying. On one side, his daughters are staying in the couches in the living room, but me, I get the garage with an air mattress or a lounge chair next to a makeshift toilet being installed in the corner. I have fibromyalgia, so sleeping on an air mattress or lounge chair is going to cause me significant pain. I didn't even mention my condition at first because I assumed the setup would be obviously uncomfortable for anybody. But here's what makes this especially harder. The relative who inherited millions rented a house nearby, and when I asked if there was space there, they said it was full because they're flying in a friend to serve as a personal chef for their group. Plus, they have other families staying with them. I can't afford to rent my own place and I can barely afford the flight. I really want to attend this memorial. I mean, this person meant a lot to me and would have wanted me there, but I also feel like I'm being treated as less important than everyone else. This has also been a pattern. Growing up, other cousins got bedrooms while I always stayed on couches or got the air mattress. I have complex PTSD, so I am worried that I'm being entitled or falling for beggars can't be choosers. So am I the jerk for saying that I can't attend if the garage is my only option? Because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk at all because this seems incredibly targeted. And for reference, the original poster clarified that it's not a converted garage. This is literally just a regular garage. You know, the place you put cars and tools and all this other storage. They want you to sleep out there while everybody else gets to sleep in this massive house. And that, in my opinion, is such garbage. Like, it seems like they're trying to treat you like some kind of prisoner. Like, oh yeah, we'll just stuff the original poster in the garage. It's fine. Like, holy crap, that's just straight up rude. And I know for a fact it would really make me feel unwelcome and probably not want to show up in the first place. mattress, which of course is not an option because you want to be there. But seriously, this is annoying. Not to mention you having like fibromyalgia, like come on people, which by the way is something they absolutely know. They know this is going to cause you problems, but even then they still refuse to make any accommodations, which is absolute garbage in my opinion because all you need is a spot for an air mattress. Literally just put a spot somewhere in the house and I'll sleep there on an air mattress. Like why do I have to stay in the garage, dude? Like what's going on right now? Some basic dignity would be nice. Like dude, these people suck. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be speaking up right now. I would say to them, look, I don't like being stuffed in the garage, and I also don't like having an air mattress. That's uncomfortable for me. And then I would list off the reasons why this is not going to work. And if these people are really as rich as you're saying, then yeah, they absolutely can make accommodations. They could easily switch things around and make something happen for you, but right now it kind of seems like they're choosing not to. And if that's not a clear indication about how they really feel about you, then I just don't know what will be. Am I overreacting for leaving the group chat after my friend announced that she's getting married? Because after all the drama we've gone through, I'm honestly at a point where I simply can't stand this any longer. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my wife is saying that I'm right, but I feel like I need another perspective since my closest friends are enveloped in this, and I can't really talk to anybody else. And right now, this whole situation is making me very sad. For starters, we're all women in our mid-20s here. Today, one of my now former friends announced that she's getting married soon. For the sake of the story, let's call her Becca. And when she did this, everybody congratulated her, including my best friend of 12 years. The thing is, I haven't spoken to Becca in nearly a year because she announced very casually how she messed around with my sister's ex years ago, and she said this at my father's funeral. And this is so messed up that I'm not even going to elaborate there. Well, it turns out that my best friend, who I will call Lily, knew the entire time. She encouraged Becca and failed to tell me or my sister. When confronted, Lily said that that happened when we were like 19 or so, and that she wasn't mature enough to understand that she had to come clean. Becca said that we just have different understanding of what's right or wrong, and even went as far as changing the story 3 times. I then told her that I frankly didn't believe her, and we just left it at that. And I said, if you're lying to my face and saying it's my fault for idealizing you, then we just can't be friends. Now, Lily stood in the middle of all of this, not picking sides, but very clearly leaning towards Becca's side, saying I was maybe too harsh and raised my voice at Becca. Now, I did raise my voice because I felt like they just didn't care if I found out, or that I found out with my father's casket still behind us. But either way, I felt so disrespected and completely gaslit. Fast forward, and it's been a year since all of that, and recently it was Lily's birthday. I didn't attend since she invited us both, and I just said, I'm not scratching my head with this. I'm gonna let you guys figure it out. And I thought I would go, but then I saw that Becca was going, after implying that she wasn't, right after I confirmed. It all felt wrong since I have chosen Lily over a million people before, so I just skipped it, and I let her know over a call. And I even offered to take her somewhere some other time. I mean, Lily hasn't even replied to my happy birthday text either, and that was almost a week ago. So now that I saw her congratulating Becca, it all just finally clicked for me. Neither one of them share my values or even care about my feelings. Maybe Lily wasn't as much of my sister as I thought she was, since she clearly values Becca despite everything. So with all of that in mind, I left the chat. I felt bad for staining Becca's announcement, but I just want it out. So do I suck for that? Am I overreacting in some way? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this was exhausting. Holy crap. I want to say first and foremost that you and all of your friends are super immature, and I think you can find way better friends than this. For starters, yeah, it's a horrible thing to find out all that information at your father's funeral. Like, this couldn't have waited until any other time. Like, are you kidding me? So that in and of itself is absolutely insane. Like, there's no excuse for that. But also, this seems like way more drama than anybody should have to deal with. Like, seriously, you can find way better friends than this. You don't need this constant negativity in your life, dude. You can find people who are stable and not always trying to cause drama. And from the sounds of it, that's kind of what it seems like you as the original poster and the rest of your friends are doing to each other. This whole like, oh, I'm gonna go to this party, never mind, Becca's coming. Like, dude, just stop being friends with her. Go find another friend. Like, what's going on right now? So honestly, I think everybody's overreacting here. I think everybody's being really petty and weird and doing these stupid passive-aggressive things just to get under each other's skin. Like, dude, get a life. This is so pointless and useless in my opinion. Because if you literally had a conversation about this and try to like hash it out and clear the air, all of this could have been avoided and fixed like a long time ago. But instead, you're choosing to leave a chat when Lily congratulates someone who is her friend. Like, this all seems very pointless and just kind of a dumb reason to be upset. So yes, in my opinion, I think you and the rest of your friends are very immature and are definitely overreacting. My girlfriend unknowingly invited my ex-wife and her family to my house for a pool party, all while I was away on a work trip. But once I got home and I demanded that she get out, my girlfriend's now upset, saying that I embarrassed her by the way I acted, putting me in a situation that honestly has really frustrated me because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I recently moved back to my hometown after 14 years. I left because I caught my then wife cheating on me, and it honestly just broke me completely. When I moved back, I bought a house in my hometown with a pool. I started dating a girl who I will call Katie for the sake of the story. We have been together for about 6 months, and I've met most of her friends, but not all of them. Now, I was out of town for a work-related thing, and she stayed at my house while I was gone. We've done this before, and we've never had any issues. I mean, I trust her, and I need someone to feed my cat, so why not? She then asked me if it would be okay if her friend and her kids came over and used the pool and hung out the day I was returning. She told me her friend's name, and it was the same name as my ex-wife. Now, at the time, I really didn't think too much of it because it is a common name. So I said sure, but I also said I wanted some alone time in the evening, and she agreed, essentially stating that this was gonna be a thing during the day. Now, I had had a hard day of travel to get home, and the airline had delays, and I spent a long time on layovers. I was tired when I got home, but I knew that Katie's friend and her kids were there, and I don't like to lash out due to stress. So I put on my game face and I walked in the house. Katie ran up to me and gave me a hug and a kiss, and then walked me to the kitchen to meet her friend. And it was at this moment that I was just completely shocked, because the person I saw was my ex-wife and her husband in my kitchen. And yeah, this was the guy that she cheated on me with. I literally had to pause for like 20 seconds and just stare until my brain rebooted and I could even say something. I then asked what in the world they were doing in my kitchen, and she said she was Katie's friend. I then asked her and her husband if they realized that they were in my house, and they said yes. They said they didn't know that I was Katie's boyfriend until they got there. Well, I told them they should leave, and Katie tried to talk me out of it, but I held firm. Their kids didn't want to leave, obviously, and my ex's husband was making comments to the kids by saying stuff like, "The bad man said you can't swim anymore today," and stupid stuff like that. Like, it just really pissed me right off. When they left, I asked Katie if she knew before that she was my ex-wife, and she said to me no. Now, I will say that is probably true. For reference, Katie is 33, and my ex and I are in our early 40s. I rarely talk about her, and it's not like I showed Katie pictures of her. Plus, Katie was in college when my ex and I split up, so it's not like they knew each other then either. I then asked Katie if my ex followed her on Instagram, and she said yes. So if my ex is anything like she was back then she lives her whole life on social media, and there's no way that she didn't know from the pictures on Katie's Instagram that we were together. Katie said they met at like a therapy group meeting, which does make sense because my ex was in it even back when we were together. Our town isn't that big, so there aren't a ton of different meetings. Well, it's at this point that Katie says I overreacted and embarrassed her, but I told her there was zero chance my ex didn't know that Katie and I were together beforehand. Instead, this was some sort of power play or something like that, and it was honestly incredibly creepy. I then asked Katie if my ex mentioned to her ever, like at all, that I was her ex-husband, but Katie said that she never said anything and said again that she didn't know she was my ex-wife. So I then asked Katie if she thought it was weird and creepy that her friend had realized beforehand, or when they at least like arrived at my place, that she was at her ex-husband's house and decided to chill anyways, knowing I was on my way home. I mean, seriously, think about it. If Katie and my ex are close enough outside their meetings that she wanted to invite her over, then surely the topic of relationship status had come up at some point, right? I mean, her lock screen is a picture of us at a baseball game, for God's sakes. Well, when I pointed that out, I could see some things were clicking into place for her, but she persisted about how I was rude and embarrassed her. I then asked her if she had ever shown my ex the picture on her lock screen of us, like even in passing, where she might ask, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" And she said that she had shown her this. And I was like, okay, well, how do you not see the weirdness then? Like, seriously, just how can she not see how weird this is? It's like a made-for-TV movie level creepy. I literally can't get my head around it. The thing is, my ex and I have had zero contact in 12 years. So for real, what in the world is going on? At this point, Katie is currently at her place, and we haven't talked since, and it's been about 3 days. I'm just sitting here stewing over it and trying to make it make sense in my head, but I honestly have no clue where to go from here because at this point, I am so lost. Okay, I think first and foremost, it wouldn't be a bad idea to like apologize to Katie and be like, "I am so sorry for embarrassing you. That is not what I meant to do." Because sure, I think what she's saying is completely valid and I totally understand where she's coming from. From the sounds of it, she probably had no idea that this was your ex-wife. And if your ex-wife really is half the person you're describing, then I don't doubt that she would keep that private and be like, "Oh, can we swim at your house?" Like, yeah, that lady is an absolute weirdo and I don't blame you for being upset. But I really do think talking to Katie and being like, "Hey, I'm sorry how it all went down. I'm sorry that I embarrassed you and all that stuff. That was never my intention. But finding my ex-wife in my kitchen honestly just freaked me out and I didn't know what else to do. Like some kind of conversation like that where you take the heat off of Katie, because honestly, I'm really convinced she didn't know. Like that really would do a lot of good for you and it would help, like, I don't know, ease the tension of the situation, because this is already really weird, dude. Like seriously, she knew what she was doing. Your ex-wife absolutely came to your house with a mission to try and mess with you. She literally hasn't talked to you like in over a decade, and now she has a chance to be in your kitchen while you show up? Like holy crap, talk about crazy. And I'm sure Katie feels awful about this entire thing because she's stuck in the middle of this. You've got to remember, she's only 6 months into being your girlfriend. She had no idea that any of this was happening. Like she literally was just trying to spend time with her friend and family and be like, oh yeah, my boyfriend has a pool, let's go have some fun. She didn't know that this lady was like a wolf in sheep's clothing. So in my opinion, I don't think you're overreacting by being freaked out about this, but I think interrogating your girlfriend and not calling her back and talking to her, in my opinion, is the wrong way to go about doing this. Because if you really do want to stay with your girlfriend, then you definitely need to like patch things up, even though in my opinion, you didn't really do too much wrong. I think making Katie feel comfortable here would be really smart, and I think it would help smooth things over in the long run. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting by being pissed off at the band that played at my wedding after they literally ruined my wedding right then and there, putting me in a situation where I am literally shaking with anger because right now I don't know what to do? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I just got married last weekend and I still feel sick thinking about all of this. We hired a band, a videographer, and a photographer like every other normal wedding would ever have. Everything was going great. We had a packed dance floor, people were laughing, and it seemed like everything was going well. Then in the middle of a song, the drummer just stopped. He throws his sticks down and literally yells into the microphone. He says, "Turn the camera off me right now. I did not consent to be filmed. I will sue you if you keep recording me." And I'm serious, he literally screamed this in front of everybody. The music instantly died and all eyes were on him. And I'm standing there absolutely stunned while this grown man has a full meltdown about being on camera at a wedding where 50% of the guests were literally filming on their phones anyways. Then he starts yelling that he refuses to be exploited for content. And that's his exact words. He said he is not some influencer prop and nobody has permission to use his face for internet content, as if I was gonna secretly monetize him or something like that. He keeps yelling that he has severe self-esteem issues and acne and does not want his face recorded. He refuses to play another note unless all cameras are off of him, but he also refuses to leave the stage. So he's just sitting there on the drum kit, arms crossed, glaring at everybody while the energy is absolutely dead. And yeah, by the way, the rest of the band looks horrified. The singer keeps apologizing to us and my wedding coordinator is trying to remind him that we clearly said in the contract and in multiple emails that the event would be filmed. Meanwhile, he's still ranting about suing us. Well, the mood was gone, the guests started leaving, and the dance floor emptied and the night never recovered. My wedding was effectively over in that moment. I did not even get the reception I had planned and paid for because of this one man's outburst. And then today, the band emails us saying they will not issue any refund because they claim they fulfilled their performance. And this honestly has left me shaking with anger. So am I overreacting for wanting a full refund and wanting to scream about this from every rooftop? I mean, is this normal in the first place? Has anyone ever had something like this happen? I feel humiliated and robbed of my own wedding night and I just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely lawyer up. Are you kidding me right now? This guy ruined your wedding. He stopped performing in the middle of it and decided to be like, oh no, no one can film me. Stop filming me. Don't look at me. I don't want to be perceived. Like, you're kidding, right? This is literally a wedding. Someone's getting married and everybody's trying to enjoy themselves. In fact, the entire night was going fantastic until you had a meltdown, bro. Like, what's going on right now? And by the way, if you have self-esteem issues, screaming at an entire wedding party while also working in a job that literally has you in front of people is not going to help anybody or anything. That's only going to make it worse and probably kill your business, dude. So no, you're not overreacting. This guy ruined your wedding. And the fact that this band is trying to be like, oh yeah, we did our thing. Like, we fulfilled our performance and our contract. Like, oh, okay, let's talk about contracts. Because this guy completely derailed the entire show and that's not fair for me. Because you deserved way better than this and this entire scenario is completely unacceptable. Am I overreacting by being pissed off at my neighbor after they sent their kid into my backyard without any kind of permission or supervision? Because right now I feel like no one's taking me seriously and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so we lived in this neighborhood for about 5 years and at first I loved it. I still do, but some things have lost their charm and that mainly has to do with the neighbors. The neighbors are in general good people as far as I can tell, but they've become a problem over time as they always send their kids to my house without permission, also that we can basically become a free babysitter whenever they feel like it. Over time, it became a huge problem, so I would send their kids outside and go inside and make it obvious that I wasn't watching their kids. It was 2 neighbors that did it the most and then a 3rd neighbor. So that's when I basically started protesting. Many months have passed and it seems they got the message as they sit outside and watch their kids play now, which is a huge contrast, especially when they didn't do it before. But all of that leads us to our main issue because things get kind of weird. Anyways, fast forward to now, and yesterday, all the neighborhood kids were outside playing. My rule is they all have to play out in front so that all the parents can see them. They kind of bounce around from house to house, and all the parents now collectively keep an eye on them. Well, yesterday I was painting the walls in my living room when suddenly one of the neighbor's kids came to my door and said, "Excuse me, there's a little kid in your backyard." This kid was maybe like 7 years old. So if she is saying little kid, then that must mean this kid's like a toddler. At first, I assumed it was just another one of the kids in the usual group. I mean, the youngest is like 5 years old, and there's 2 7-year-olds, all girls, and then my 2 boys are about 8 and 9 years old. I then asked my husband to go check, and I was assuming she was referring to a 5-year-old since she's the youngest and would be the only one I could imagine being referred to as a little kid. But then I heard my husband say, "Hey buddy, I don't know you. You have to go out front." And at the same time, my husband is yelling at the dog not to jump on the kid. And that right there really alarmed me. So I go out to check, and sure enough, there's this little boy who's about 4 years old in my backyard playing on the swing set. And keep in mind, no other kids nor any adults were in my backyard. So there was no invitation and no reason that any stranger should feel comfortable sending their kid into my backyard. I do keep my garage door open and my front door unlocked when my kids are playing so that my kids can come and go as needed. I also have a bulldog who is very protective of me, my husband, and my kids. And trust me, he will nip at people he doesn't know. He will also attack on command. So having small children in my yard is a big no-no unless I put the dog away first. I approach the child and I attempt to get him off the swing set and out of my yard, and still there's no adult in sight. But when I get there, he doesn't seem to speak English and I don't speak Spanish. I walk out front and there's a woman standing in the sidewalk staring at her phone, and I try to talk to her to ask if this is her child and if she can remove him from my yard. She then tries to pretend like she doesn't know what's going on as if she doesn't understand English, and despite my body language, she does nothing to remove her kid from my yard. So I walk 2 doors down where the kids are playing, and I ask the parents if they know who this kid is or have any idea what's going on, because I found this random boy in my backyard. They then tell me the little boy walked into their house earlier and actually started trying on their daughter's roller skates. My kids then tell me that this little boy actually went into our house earlier and was not corrected from doing so. He also jiggled the handle to my next door neighbor, whose kids are grown up, but thankfully the door was locked. Now I gotta be honest, this entire situation was really weird. So I call my other neighbor, who's also my friend, and I ask her to come outside to ask if she's ever seen this lady before, because I'm just trying to figure out who she is, where she came from, and what in the world is going on. This friend also speaks Spanish, so I hope that she would converse with the lady and figure out what's happening. When my Spanish-speaking friend came out and began speaking Spanish, this woman suddenly and miraculously starts speaking English. And sure, it's broken English, but still, that means she knew exactly what I was saying when I told her to come get her kid, but she was pretending that she didn't. And that was super weird for me. I then see my other neighbor walk up to grab her kid and take her home and have a brief conversation with this woman. So I'm just standing there thinking to myself, okay, she won't talk to me, but she let her kid in my backyard? That's really weird. They eventually go home, and it's here that I realize they live catty corner in the house in the cul-de-sac. I've only ever seen her son because he's the neighborhood drunk guy and drinks a lot, and on top of that, he's always yelling and the cops eventually show up. But through all of that, I've never seen the mom. Well, a few hours later, I knock on her door. Her adult son in his 40s answers the door, and I ask to talk to his mom. She then comes out and again acts like she doesn't speak English, so I said to her, okay, I guess I have to call the cops. Well, suddenly she knew what I said, and the other son, who was different than the other son that, again, I didn't even know this guy lived here, came out and started talking to me. I then started explaining what happened, and my concern is that she wasn't watching this child. The child is too young to be unsupervised. He's going in my neighbor's house and in my backyard, and he definitely didn't have permission. Like, I was not asked if this could happen. Plus, when I tried to communicate to her, she acted like she didn't know anything. I then explained how this is unacceptable. Well, he then said that this was his kid, while also clarifying that this woman was actually his mother, meaning that this was the child's grandma. He then said that he won't let the kid play anymore. I tried explaining that I don't mind him playing, but I need someone to supervise because I'm not the neighborhood babysitter. Plus, my kids are much older than his 4-year-old, while also saying that I can't have strangers invite themselves into my yard. Like, these people don't know me at all. I've never even exchanged a friendly wave or said hello to them, and I could be a bad person and they would just have no idea. Like, they just sent their kid into my yard with no supervision at all. Well, when I explained explained all this, the dad got defensive. And it's here that I decided this conversation was going nowhere. So I just said, alrighty then, see you later, and I just walked off. So seriously, with all things in mind, am I overreacting here? Like, this is insane, right? I kind of felt bad later because in retrospect, I said to them, hey, I guess I'll just call the cops, meaning that you left an unattended child in my yard and refused to retrieve him when I asked you to. But later I realized with the political climate that it could have been taken a much different way, which is not what I intended at all. Because look, I attempted to communicate, but they obviously don't want to. They don't want to watch their kid, and I don't know what to even think about this. So am I at fault here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, you are not at fault. This is so irresponsible. First of all, the fact that she's trying to pretend like she doesn't speak English is really annoying, because obviously she does. And also, it's pretty telling that she knew she was in the wrong, because she was willing to talk to just about everybody in broken English, besides the person whose house she was having her kid play at. Like, that's completely inappropriate, and in my opinion, absolutely uncalled for. So hopefully you have cameras around your house now, and you put a lock on that back gate, and you start locking your door, because this is some sketchy behavior. And in my opinion, you should absolutely not have to deal with that. Would I be the jerk for refusing to give my brother his room back after he moved out of it after literally trashing the place and making it very disgusting? Because now he wants it back all of a sudden, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my 23-year-old brother lived in one of the bedrooms in our house all before moving out a few months ago to live with his girlfriend. When he left, he completely trashed the room. It was filthy and full of junk, and my dad told me that if I cleaned it up, then I could have that room for my own. So I spent days cleaning it up, and I'm talking a deep cleaning, throwing out his trash, organizing, scrubbing, literally everything. The room is a lot bigger than mine. It has its own en-suite bathroom, and the closet is way bigger too. My current room is small, and I have to use a bathroom that's across the hall, which can be awkward since I'm the only female in the house, and sometimes I have to sprint there undressed after a shower. Anyways, my brother recently came back home after things with his girlfriend didn't work out, and now he's demanding the room back. His reasoning is that he needs the space because he has a rabbit and wants to keep it there. He says it wouldn't be fair for me to take the room when he has a pet that needs the space more than I do. Now, the thing is, the room was promised to me, and I'm the only one who actually cleaned it. He left it disgusting and didn't care until he suddenly wanted it back. Now, I kind of feel bad because I get that the rabbit needs room to move around, but at the same time, it feels unfair that I did all the work just for him to swoop back in and take it from me. For context, I will probably be moving out in about a year for law school, while he's pretty much unemployed and still living off of our parents. I don't want to cause a huge fight over it, but I also don't want to give up something that I earned. If I do give him the room, then I would want to ask for money for cleaning it, since I did have to inhale a lot of bleach, which really caused severe migraines. Plus, I cleaned up mold in the carpets, his bunny that just pooped all over the place, I wiped down the windows that had spider eggs, and I did so much stuff and put a lot of work into this room. So would I be the jerk in this scenario if I just said no to him? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, there is no way you would ever be the jerk, dude. You put so much work into cleaning that room up and making it something that's actually livable. So for him to come back and be like, I need that room back because of my bunny. My rabbit needs to move around. I'm sorry, but you need to get out. It's like, dude, I don't think so. That's not happening. You left that place disgusting, and I earned it by cleaning it up and moving into it. And that, by the way, is completely fair between you and your dad. And I would almost be really tempted to hear what your dad has to say about this, because I'm sure he's gonna be like, wait a second, you wanna move back in after you trashed the place before leaving? Like, I'm sorry, what are we talking about here? Like, I know for a fact my dad would be like, oh, you gotta find some other place to live, or pay me for compensation, because that is absolutely not okay. Like, you can't just leave like that and expect some kind of accommodation in some way. So no, I would never give it back to him, and honestly, I would even put a lock on the door so that he can't move your crap out and put his stuff in there instead, because based on the way he's acting right now, I can honestly see that happening, and that would be very unfair. An entitled Karen blocks the access to the ATM by quite literally parking her car in the middle of the passageway, blocking me from leaving or even going forward. And I'm honestly blown away by this situation because this is one of the most outlandish things I've ever seen in my life. Here's what happened. Years ago, my local bank had an outside 24-hour ATM that was right next to the main door, and a drive-thru right next to the building, which was also right to the 24-hour ATM. The drive-thru had a narrow entrance, and it starts to get wider once you get in so that cars could line up on the left to use the machine, but other drivers could drive through on the right side to get to the back street. People used to park in there while going into the branch, which was annoying and technically not allowed, but it's not really hurting anyone, since using the alley to go to the street behind is also technically not allowed. Well, one time I was driving to the bank, intending to use the drive-through lane, and this car in front of me made the turn to get into it. Now, it annoyed me just a little bit, as I was going to have to wait before she used it, but that was it. I mean, she got in first, so that's that. But then she just parked her car blocking the entrance and stepped out of it, walking towards the ATM on the sidewalk. She didn't even drive up a little further in and to the right. Instead, she just left her car there, blocking me. And she absolutely saw me, by the way. It's not like she thought there was nobody behind her waiting to use the ATM. So I lowered my window and I yelled at her. I said to her, "You're blocking the way to the drive-thru. This is not a parking space." She then yelled back and said, "Oh, I know," and sped up a little bit, like trying to hurry up and finish her transaction faster. I then got super pissed off, and I laid on my horn like crazy. She then got nervous and hesitated a little bit between using the machine or going back to her car, all while my horn was blaring non-stop. I mean, this was maybe like 4 or 5 seconds, but then another car had lined up behind me, and this entitled woman simply couldn't withstand the pressure. She then went back to her own car and drove off without even using the ATM in the first place. Now, fast forward, and the bank eventually removed the drive-thru machine, but left the space so that people now use it as a short-term parking when they go in the building. But regardless, the absolute audacity of this lady really blew my mind, because she seriously thought she could park there and try and get away with it. Oh man, this lady knew what she was doing. She said, "Oh, I know that people are behind me and they could easily pass me if I pull up a little bit, but instead, I'm gonna park here and go to the ATM." It's like, bro, you have some guts on you. You really thought you could get away with that and have nobody say anything, didn't you? Like, I'm sorry, that's so inappropriate and so selfish and entitled. Like, this is a good lesson in standing up for yourself and saying, no, this is an injustice towards me and I'm not putting up with that. Because this Karen was completely out of line and insane for even trying that. My psychopath coworker follows me to my car, demanding that I give him a ride home from work. He even goes as far as banging on my window, screaming that I better take him home right now. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally peeling out of that parking lot, leaving him stranded in the middle of the night in a town that absolutely had no public transportation. Here's what happened. Okay, so I had a coworker who was one of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life. He was very misogynistic, calling all the women that worked there girl, demanding they do things for him while he did absolutely nothing, constantly flirting with them regardless of if they're single or even showing any interest, and would scream profanities in their face if they didn't fall in line. Management dragged their feet doing anything despite the constant issues, and the fact that they were aware the quality of his work was terrible. Now, I'm not a woman, but many of my friends there were women, and when I saw him saying stuff like, "Hey girl, go get this for me right now," and then pitch a fit like a toddler when they refused, it just really pissed me off. And I even told people that I worked with to tell me if that guy was hitting on them, and just wouldn't leave them alone because I honestly just can't stand that crap. Well, eventually I heard that he had no transportation and was pressuring people to take him home. And one night I was his latest target because he told me he needed a ride home. For a bit of context, it was midnight and the only people left were me, the manager, and this idiot. Now, I straight up told him that I couldn't, but he seriously wouldn't listen to me. And in fact, he even followed me to my car anyways. Well, I got in and I locked the doors, and this guy started banging on my windows like a psychopath. He started telling me that I better take him home right now. Keep in mind, by the way, it was pitch black out in an empty parking lot with no security at midnight. He could have attacked me or jumped me and stole my car, and my odds of stopping him would have been very slim. Well, I put the car in reverse and I backed out, and I blew out of that lot completely. The manager also left ahead of me for reference, so this guy was left in that lot all alone. There was also zero public transportation and probably no Uber that would even pick him up. I mean, seriously, the town I drive to for work is completely car dependent, and it's so anti-public transportation that sidewalks don't even exist. But seriously, I didn't feel bad at all about it. Your transportation is your problem. This guy's also not a child. He is 27 years old. He's a big boy, so I'm sure he can figure out his own business. Now, you might think this is the end of it, and sure, he did never ask me for a ride again or mess with me ever again, but something happened months ago that proved that yeah, this guy is actually a very crazy person. Basically, a viral video of him came out showing him getting out of a car in a fit of road rage and getting into a fist fight with another driver right in the the middle of a busy highway with hundreds of cars swerving trying not to hit him. And yeah, as you can probably guess, a coworker was giving him a ride because they felt bad for him, which is definitely a huge mistake. He was clearly identifiable and people in the comments were absolutely using his legal name, but apparently even that wasn't enough to get him fired. He then rather anticlimactically finally ran his mouth at a female general manager, and she basically not only told him to get lost, but also fired him on the spot. And trust me, when it finally happened, a lot of people had some shots in celebration that this guy was finally gone. Oh my gosh, I have so much to say about this. Like, first of all, your management sucks. Seriously, these people allowed all these women to be bothered like that, and they did nothing about it? Are you kidding me right now? That is so inappropriate and just completely uncalled for. Like, this guy is notoriously a weirdo, and the management doesn't have the common decency of firing this guy. Like, there's more than enough evidence to be like, yeah, no, he really is doing this. Like, yeah, this guy's a piece of garbage, but I think this is really a story about your management, because like, even after this viral video comes out of him fighting someone in the middle of the road, you know, him being an identifiable like employee at this company, they still didn't fire him until he said the wrong thing to like a general manager. Then it finally was taken seriously. Like, holy crap, dude. So yeah, this is a crazy situation. I'm glad you got your petty revenge, but I'm also glad this guy got fired, which in my opinion is like the first thing that definitely should have happened. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to be my sister's unpaid wedding photographer, as she literally expects free labor out of me, despite the fact that I was offering her a huge discount because we're family? Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a professional photographer. My sister, who I will call Karen, is getting married next spring and asked if I could photograph her wedding. Well, I told her I would give her a huge discount. I would do it for $400 instead of my usual $2,000 package, and I said I would do this since we're family. But when I said this, she said that she was hoping I would do it as a gift. I then explained that I can't just do it for free because it means a full day of work, as well as editing time and missing out on enjoying the event as her brother. But then she said to me, "It's literally one day. Stop acting like it's hard." When I stood firm, she accused me of putting money above family. And now my parents are saying that I should just do it to try and keep the peace. Meanwhile, she's spending thousands of dollars on the venue and an open bar. So am I the jerk for refusing to shoot my sister's wedding for free? Because right now I'm really annoyed by this. Okay, I hate people who are trying to be like, you're putting money above family, because I want to shout back at them and be like, yeah, you're doing the exact same thing. You're putting your wallet above paying your brother a fair wage. Like, are you kidding me right now? Holy crap, it's only $400, dude. His normal package is $2,000. Like, you're getting a crazy discount, and you want to sit there and be like, oh, that's not low enough. I need it for free. Free is the only price I know. So no, you're not the jerk here. This is literally your livelihood, and she's trying to be like, oh, just do it as a gift. It's one day. Stop acting like it's hard. Because that kind of attitude would probably make me not even want to show up in the first place, especially if she's going to treat me like free labor just because we're family. My new girlfriend is trying to move in with me, despite the fact that I feel like it's way too soon, which is now leaving me questioning if this is right and what I should do in the first place. Here's what's going on. I'm a 31-year-old male, and I started dating my current girlfriend, who's 23, back in July. Things were going great, and we decided to make our relationship official after a vacation a few weeks ago. Now, the real problem happened as soon as we got back from vacation. She lives with her mom, and apparently when she got back home, she got into this big fight with her mom's deadbeat boyfriend. Now she refuses to go back home until homeboy moves out. I'm trying to be a good boyfriend and let her stay with me for a while, but a while is starting to feel permanent. Her mom's boyfriend doesn't even have a job, and there's no sign of him moving out anytime soon. It doesn't help that my apartment is tiny and I hate not having space to myself. A couple days ago, she asked me if we could get a place together when my lease ends in February, and since she's already living with me, that would mean that she permanently moved in 2 days after becoming my girlfriend. That's way too fast for me, and to be honest, it feels like she's taking advantage of my kindness and resources. I genuinely just don't know what to do because I don't want to kick her out with no place to go, but I also don't feel comfortable with her moving in on such short notice. I'm not sure how to resolve this problem, and right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, you gotta realize that this person is 8 years younger than you, and that is a big age difference in my opinion. Yeah, you're both adults, and like, sure, it could work, but you've gotta know that this person's probably in a much different place than you're currently in. With that in mind, I also think it is way too soon to be moving in together. Like, holy crap, you guys have not even been dating a year, and this is what's been going on. So truly, I think the best option that I would do is probably help her find her own place. Because I'm right there with you, I don't think it's a good idea to sit there and be like, oh yeah, let's move in together. Because not only is it like way too soon, but I also think that she really is taking advantage of your kindness, and that really just doesn't sit well with me. Am I the jerk for trying to set a boundary with my little sister after she opened up my birthday present and stole the contents of it? Because right now I'm honestly really pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 23-year-old female and my little sister is 13 years old. I live back and forth between my mom's and my dad's house, and all of my siblings are half-siblings on my dad's side. Now, I need to say, I love my little sister, but lately I've been getting annoyed about certain boundaries that she crosses. She's obsessed with face cream, hand cream, body spray, as well as perfumes, any hair products that smell good, all types of lip gloss. I mean, she has a very big collection of all of these things. I once sat and counted how many lip stuff that she had accumulated over the years, and I counted at least 37. Despite having tons of her own, she always asks to borrow mine and often ends up using up the entire thing. She also gets upset if I don't share my stuff with her. For example, I got a body mist from Bath & Body Works recently because I love the smell. I decided to leave it at my mom's house, and my sister saw it in the background during a FaceTime, and she said, "Oh, that looks like it smells good. Can you bring it the next time you come here?" And I just jokingly said something along the lines of, "Oh, I think I've got more than enough perfumes at Dad's place." And when I said this, she was visibly upset. Now, I'm quite a patient person, so I brush off all this stuff because she's my little sister, and that's just what siblings do, right? But this recent situation has really upset me, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or not. So here's where it all kind of goes down. It was my birthday on Tuesday, and I went to my dad's to celebrate after work. When I sat down to open my presents, I noticed that all of them were intact except for one, and this one had the packaging all ripped out and the contents removed from it. I think to myself, wow, that's kind of weird. So I asked my little sister what happened, and she told me it was one of my brother's gifts to me, which, by the way, it was a set that included hand cream, a nail file, some cuticle oil, and a little nail clipper. She then said to me that she really wanted to try it and couldn't wait for me to open it, so she decided to go ahead and open it herself and try everything out. Well, half of the hand cream had been squeezed out of the tube, the nail file was used because it had those telltale scratches on it, and the small cuticle oil bottle wasn't closed properly, so it was also opened. I understand that in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a big deal, but it made me sad that she had just gone and opened my gift like that without even thinking to consult me first. I then said to her verbatim, "You need to stop thinking all of my things are automatically yours too." And by the way, her mom taught her that everything that belongs to your siblings also belongs to you. Her philosophy was that siblings share everything, so setting a boundary is very difficult. My sister then got mad because apparently I never share my things with her anymore, and I'm purposely leaving my stuff at my mom's place to avoid her using them. Her mom then called me quite selfish for belittling my own sister for wanting to be closer to me by borrowing my things. So am I the jerk here? Because this is incredibly annoying and I just don't know what to do. No, this is weird, dude. She opened up one of your birthday presents. Like, seriously, there's no reason any of that should have happened. Like, that goes far beyond sharing stuff. Like, at that point, she's just straight up stealing. Like, what's left to share? She ruined half the products that was in there. And I don't care that it's like face cream and hand cream and like stuff for your nails. It could be a screwdriver for all I care. She's destroying your property and being weird about it. That is more than enough reason to be like, yeah, I'm not okay with this. So no, you're not the jerk because your little sister's out of line, and anybody that agrees with her, in my opinion, is also out of line. My mom refuses to respect any of my boundaries towards my boyfriend, as she is so hypercritical of him to the point where this is seriously affecting my mental health. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm in my late 30s living with my mother who is in her early 60s. We have always had a single parent codependent dynamic ever since their divorce, which happened when I was a young child. My mom is an old school European immigrant who grew up in a very chaotic, violent household and was mostly raised by her strict grandmother. She's always been tough love with me because that's what she grew up with. I admire her ability to stay disciplined and resourceful throughout her life, despite her high declining depression. She's also a lifelong volunteer to several causes and is always there to help people, sometimes to the point of her own demise. Her marriage with my dad traumatized both of us because this man was an awful narcissist, but eventually we picked up the pieces from all of that. We also do both carry PTSD as a result. She never really had another long-term relationship after that, maybe one guy in 4 years, but there was no other father figure in my life ever since my dad left, and he still remains out of my life. My mom has high-functioning depression, and I have low-functioning depression. We both have health issues, with mine being more serious, which has led to her often helping me until I found ways to manage my symptoms much better in my late 20s. She has also been in several emergency visits with me due to my health condition, which is very kind and shows care, but also must have been traumatic for her. She is very protective and very controlling over me, to the point that she doesn't even believe that I should be making mistakes because I can can use her life as an example. Therefore, if she tells me not to do something and I still do it, we tend to argue, and these fights become exhausting and very long. If I explain I needed to learn the lesson for myself, and that way it would stick, she explains that it's a waste of time and that I'm foolish. She says not to ever come crying to her if I make a mistake that hurts me if she has warned me prior about it. In addition to my physical health issues, I have some mental health issues too. And most recently, after doing more research, I know that I'm coming to the realization that I may be on the spectrum. During my years of agoraphobia and terrible OCD, I simply couldn't work, but I tried my best to maintain our rented home while she worked. Oftentimes, I would struggle to do different tasks in the way that she liked them done, and this is all due to me having panic attacks and meltdowns. She wasn't able to empathize, and her dismissive behavior towards my mental health struggles really hurt. Unless my physical health issue flared up, she had no sympathy that I had panic attacks that prevented me from getting chores done, or if the mental health issues caused me to have to cancel school courses or jobs. Well, fast forward now to my late 30s and we have the same dynamic. I only heard about boundaries this year, but so far any attempts at me enforcing them cause arguments and her telling me not to school her because she is the parent. She fires back at me that I'm incapable of showing her any proof that I am capable of handling life. To her, age doesn't determine being an adult, actions do, and I'm mainly struggling to gain independence because of my health issues, and honestly, the psychological strain of arguing so much just really makes me feel like I'm losing it. Her most recent targets are about me and my choice of men that I'm dating. 2 years ago, I was in a large age gap relationship, and she found it gross beyond belief. She said despite my age to her, I act and look like I'm still in my 20s, so therefore it was like the man I dated was a complete creep. The daily criticisms that I faced from her that I lost my mind and that what I was doing was gross just kept on going. She even worked herself into a panic and threatened to disown me. Currently, my relationship is with a neurodivergent man a bit younger than me. My mom found him weird early on and didn't like how we acted together. She also saw him get kind of upset and triggered and have a temper, even though it was nothing dangerous, and because of the residual damage from my dad, this immediately led her to believe that this relationship is wrong for me. I mean, she is still very untrusting towards men. Anytime I bring up my current boyfriend, she has some kind of issue to point out. She'll point out that he hardly spends any money on me and that he lives at home. And it's like, sure, he had to move back in with a parent, but he did live on his own prior to this. My mom will also point out if we go out too late, and she feels that he may be too controlling. Now, the big thing to consider is that she said that he is not welcome in our home, even though we both rent it and she doesn't own it. But on top of that, she won't just have a sit-down conversation to get to know him and get to know our intentions together. So is it not fair for me to tell her that I don't want to hear her suggestions and opinions about my relationship until she can talk to him and get to know him first? I'm at the end of my rope and she simply won't back down and just fires back at me and gets defensive. I've now developed anxiety that every time he is mentioned, there's going to be some kind of trial and argument. This really is nuts and it's ruining my health, and I simply don't know what to do anymore. Okay, seriously, your mom sounds very overbearing and very controlling. And just as a reference, the original poster said they can't move out, so that's definitely not an option, even though that's the first thing I thought of like halfway through this thing, dude. You would do so much better on your own, in my opinion. At least I know I would, especially if I have a mom who's acting like this. But to answer your question, no, it is not out of line to be like, hey, stop giving me advice about this if you refuse to meet him. Because from the sounds of it, this guy doesn't sound that bad. In fact, I don't think he sounds bad at all. Like, the guy doesn't sound like he's doing anything wrong. And seriously, it seems like your mom's just taking out her bent-up frustration towards your dad out on him. So no, you're not doing anything wrong by asking her to chill out because your mom is acting very weird. My boyfriend just got kicked out of his apartment and also doesn't have a job. And right now, I'm worried that if he moves into my place, I might lose my mind because our entire relationship is a little messy right now and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been dating a guy for about 2 years. At the beginning of our relationship, I was struck by the depths of our conversations. His verbal support of my painting and how he turned his life around, where he gave up on substances like 3 years ago, was honestly just something that really stood out to me. He also took practical steps to show up for me. He changed the litter box for my cats, took the recycling out, took my car to get the tires rotated, and in the past, I dated guys who talked a big game but never did anything. So with this, I felt so hopeful. Now, for a bit of side context, both of my parents are mentally ill and they are substance addicts, if you know what I mean. So there is a lot of pain there that I really need therapy for. Anyways, while we've been together, I squared away my first year of a social work master's program, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. In the meantime, he lost his job 8 months ago and has been playing music on the weekends to scrape by. I told him the high risk of that, as there was a lack of savings and all these other things, and it honestly was making me nervous. He also really wasn't scraping by because he didn't have enough money for food, so I started paying, and now I buy almost all of our groceries, and I've been pleading with him to please get a more secure job in addition to music, just a bookstore or something like that 2 days a week or something. But anyways, he simply won't do it. He is working really hard to make enough money with music, but he won't get another job. And in fact, yesterday he got asked to leave his living situation, so now he needs somewhere to land. He's not from this town, so there aren't a ton of options. I want to be a good partner and show up, but my nervous system is terrified. Now, he was asked to leave because his landlord wanted to move his daughter and her family into the property. And no, for reference, he never missed a rent payment. He did say he may have found something for work this week, and with him losing his housing situation, maybe he would be like more open to change. When I actually questioned him about the situation, I feel like our conversation always ends up with my trauma, where it's like, oh, clearly I'm having a big reaction because I have trauma about this, and that it's not fair to him because I'm not seeing all that he does for me. On top of all of it, the uncertainty and anxiety makes me heartbroken because I'm yearning for a forever home with somebody. Before he was asked to leave his place, he was spending most nights at mine pretty much anyways, but it feels different if he were to not have a place of his own. So with all that in mind, I honestly am just kind of at a loss. Would it be morally wrong to tell him that he can't stay with me? And if he does stay here, is there anything I can do to stay sane? Like have a chore chart or something like that? And if I tell him that he can't move in, then what should I tell him to do in the meantime? I'm honestly feeling so lost because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest, if this guy is only focusing on music and is refusing to contribute financially to the relationship, then that in my opinion is a huge red flag. And trust me, I get it, he's trying to make music work, he's trying to scrape by with gigs and all this other stuff, but it's clearly not working and he needs to find something else on the side to make it happen. Because the industry he's trying to break into is incredibly hard, it is so fickle and it can fall out from underneath you at a moment's notice. Like seriously, that is a really hard job. And sometimes you might not even get work from it. Like dude, you've gotta know the risks involved with this, especially if there are loved ones behind you trying to be like, hey, you've got to get a job to support yourself and to support me. So that alone is like a huge red flag where it's like, oh, you really won't get a job during the day, like some kind of bookkeeping job or something at like, I don't know, a dollar store or something like that. You really can't work part-time at some job and just like, I don't know, make some money. Like that to me screams that this guy's being super selfish and just using you in a way that I don't think is appropriate. So if I was in your shoes, and I can only speak for myself with like the limited information we have about this, I would not let this person move in with me. I'm sorry, but you need to have some more guarantees when it comes to like you having a job and actually having anything going before I can trust you moving in. Because otherwise, it really seems like this is going to be a nightmare situation and I just don't think anybody's going to be happy here. Because if he's not working, this is going to wear on your mental health and everything is only going to go downhill. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.